The photographer had already placed me at the end of the second row when Lauren came down the dock and touched my elbow. "Dad, could you hold these for a second?" She handed me a canvas equipment bag and a folded reflector. Then she took the empty place beside her husband. I stood there holding the photographer's gear while my daughter arranged 16 adults into a family portrait. "Do you want the gentleman in one?" the photographer asked. The gentleman. Lauren glanced at the sky, where the last clean strip of sunlight was sinking behind the lake. "We're running out of light." Nobody said my name. My ex-wife studied the boards beneath her shoes. Her husband gave me a little shrug, almost apologetic, as if the weather had excluded me. An hour later, with rain hammering the lodge roof and the rented shuttle nowhere in sight, Lauren found me in the kitchen. "Dad, can you drive everyone home?" She held out my keys. I looked past her at the photograph glowing on her phone. 16 smiling faces, every one of them dry and safely inside, because I had carried the chairs in before the storm. "Everyone?" I asked. Her expression changed. Not guilt, not embarrassment. Betrayal. That was the part I couldn't understand. 2 days earlier, I had believed I was going on a family vacation. Lauren called me while I was replacing a hinge on one of my kitchen cabinets. It wasn't broken enough to replace, but I had reached the age when I found loose doors personally insulting. "Tell me you haven't packed yet," she said. "I haven't packed yet." Perfect. That's not usually what people say when somebody hasn't packed. She laughed, but it had that distracted rattle it got when she was walking through a store or trying to locate something she was already holding. I could hear hangers sliding against a metal rack. "I need to add 2 coolers," she said. "And Mom forgot the garment bag with her dinner outfit, so I'm picking that up tonight." Grant's parents are taking the train now because his dad's back is acting up. Did the train cause that? You know what I mean. I did. Lauren had always delivered requests in pieces, like she was assembling them while she spoke. If she told you the whole thing at once, it might sound like too much. "So I'm picking up Grant's parents," I said. "Would you?" "You're a lifesaver." "What time?" "The train gets in at 9:40 tomorrow. I know that's early. It's 20 minutes from my house. I mean, early for the weekend. Check-in isn't until 3. That was how I learned my weekend started 5 hours before everyone else's. I tightened the cabinet hinge while she explained the revised schedule. I was to collect Howard and Denise Holloway at the station, then swing by Lauren's place for the coolers, the anniversary decorations, 3 folding chairs, 2 cases of sparkling water, and a bakery box. I was not to tilt under any circumstances. "What's in the bakery box?" I asked. "A cake." "Then why call it a bakery box like we're transporting evidence?" "Because if I tell you it's a cake, you'll put something on top of it. I've transported cakes before. You transported my graduation cake with a socket wrench sitting in the frosting. That cake had a problem before the wrench got involved." She laughed again, genuinely that time. "It warmed me more than it should have." Lauren was 36, married for 11 months, and fully capable of renting another vehicle. I knew that. I also knew she had called me first. "Anything else?" I asked. There was a pause. "No, that's plenty." Which meant yes, but she hadn't remembered it yet. After we hung up, I left the small suitcase on my bed and went into the garage to clear space in the back of my SUV. There were moving blankets, a plastic crate of tools, 2 camp chairs, and a box containing an electric griddle I had promised my brother, Paul, I would return 3 Sundays ago. My phone rang while I was folding down the rear seats. "You busy?" Paul asked. "Depends." That's a yes disguised as wisdom. "I'm loading up for Lauren's anniversary weekend. Lauren has been married 11 months. It's for Ellen and Richard." Paul went quiet for 1 beat too long. "You're attending your ex-wife's anniversary weekend. It's a family thing at a lodge." "Whose family?" "Paul." "I'm asking geographically. I want to know where the borders are." He had disliked my post-divorce arrangement with Ellen from the beginning. According to him, we had achieved all the inconvenience of marriage with none of the tax advantages. "You still want the griddle?" I asked. "I wanted it last month." "It's in my hand. You told me that last week. This time I'm being literal." He sighed. "Bring it by after your thing. I may not get back until Sunday night." We were supposed to watch the game Sunday. I had forgotten. Not completely. The game had existed somewhere in my mind, behind train times and cake dimensions. "Next week," I said. "Sure." He didn't sound angry. Paul's disappointment had become too practiced for that. "Lauren needs the extra cargo room," I added, though he hadn't asked. She always does. When the call ended, I put the griddle back on the shelf to make room for other people's belongings. The next morning, I arrived at the station at 9:30. Howard and Denise Holloway came through the doors with matching gray luggage and completely different attitudes toward it. Howard dragged both suitcases as if he were leading stubborn animals. Denise carried a leather purse and a white paper cup. "Daniel!" she called. We had met 6 times, which was apparently enough for her to hug me. Howard offered his hand, then winced when I shook it. "Back," he said. "Not you." I'm relieved. I thought my handshake had become aggressive. Denise laughed. Howard looked at me for a second, decided I might be joking, and smiled. They were decent people, which made it harder to resent how easily they fit into Lauren's new life. Denise knew Grant's work schedule, the name of Lauren's dentist, and which side of the bed their dog slept on. I knew Lauren had recently changed dentists because she had asked me to drive her old bookcase to the new dentist's receptionist. At Lauren and Grant's townhouse, the front door opened before I reached the porch. "Shoes off," Grant said. Then he saw me carrying a cooler. "Actually, keep them on. We're beyond civilization." Grant was tall, pleasant, and always looked recently ironed. He worked in commercial insurance, though whenever he explained what he did, I came away believing the buildings themselves bought policies from him. The living room was crowded with bags. Lauren stood in the middle of them, wearing leggings, one sock, and the expression of a general losing a small but meaningful war. "You're early," she said. "It's 11:15. "I know. I thought you'd get coffee with them." "I had coffee," Denise said. "Your father refused one. That's because station coffee tastes like it was filtered through a bus seat." Lauren kissed my cheek and immediately pointed toward the dining table. "The decorations are there, but don't take the gold bag. That's coming with us." "What's in the gold bag?" "I don't remember. That's why it's coming with us." Grant carried out 2 cases of water. I took the coolers and the bakery box. Denise took command of the garment bag. Howard found a chair and lowered himself into it with a noise that suggested the chair had offended him first. On my 3rd trip, Lauren followed me to the driveway. "You're okay with this weekend, right?" she asked. There was enough concern in her voice to make me stop. With carrying things, with Mom and Richard, the whole anniversary part. I know what an anniversary is. "Dad, I'm fine." She searched my face. I gave her the expression I had spent years perfecting. Mild amusement, no visible needs. "Okay," she said. "I just don't want it to be weird." "Then don't make it weird." "See, when you say it like that, it sounds like it's already weird." I smiled and lifted the cake into the back. The lodge sat above Lake Weller, 3 hours north, at the end of a narrow road lined with maples and hand-painted signs, warning drivers about deer. It was larger than the website photos had suggested, all dark timber and stone chimneys, with a broad deck facing the water. 6 guest rooms opened off the main hall, and 2 smaller cabins stood among the trees. Lauren's mother was on the front steps when we arrived. Ellen had been my wife for 25 years. Even after 12 years apart, I could tell from 50 feet away whether she was waving hello or directing traffic. This was traffic. "Coolers around the side," she called. "The refrigerator in the main kitchen is full." "Hello to you too," I said. She came down, hugged Lauren, hugged Denise, and kissed my cheek. Last. "You made good time." Howard threatened the other drivers. "My back makes me irritable," Howard said. "His front isn't always a picnic," Denise added. Richard came from behind the lodge carrying a bundle of firewood. He was broad, red-faced, and kind in an embarrassed way, as if kindness were something he had been caught doing. "Dan," he said, "you didn't have to bring all this. I was under the impression you wanted to eat." He grinned and took one of the coolers. That was Lauren's demand. "I wanted chips and bourbon." "You still want chips and bourbon," Ellen said. "That's why our marriage works." There was no villain standing on those steps. That would have made everything simpler. For the next hour, people arrived in waves. Ellen's sister Marcy and her husband, Glenn. Richard's brother, Tom. 2 cousins from Ohio, who apologized for being late, even though nobody had told me they were coming. Grant's parents settled into the room across from Lauren and Grant. Marcy and Glenn took the Lakeview room. Tom claimed one of the cabins. I carried bags, found outlets, and tightened the handle on a bedroom door after Marcy nearly trapped herself inside. "That's why we brought Daniel," Ellen said. Everybody laughed. So did I. Late that afternoon, I found Lauren in the hallway taping handwritten name cards to the bedroom doors. "I don't see mine," I said. She kept pressing tape against a card labeled Tom. "You're at the Lakeside Motor Inn. I waited for the rest. She turned and saw that I was still there. It's really close. 15 minutes, maybe 12 without traffic. I thought I was staying here. We ran out of rooms. I looked down the hall at 6 labeled doors, then through the window toward the cabins. Tom has a cabin. Richard promised him one. And the Ohio cousins? They're in the other cabin. Dad, I booked the motel weeks ago. It's already handled. Handled. My sleeping arrangements had been handled like ice delivery. Lauren lowered her voice. The lodge rooms were for immediate family and couples. You said you didn't care where you slept. I couldn't remember saying that. I could imagine saying it, which was close enough. She touched my arm. Please don't make a thing out of it. From the kitchen, Ellen called for help with the anniversary cake. Lauren looked toward the sound, then back at me. I picked up my keys. The motel's fine, I said. Her relief was immediate. Thank you. I knew you'd understand. As I walked outside, she called after me. Dad, before you go, could you help me move the benches down to the dock? That's where we're taking the family picture tomorrow. I looked at the benches. They were built from thick cedar planks and positioned around a stone fire pit 30 yards from the dock. Each one could seat 4 adults or injure 2 men who refused to admit it was heavy. How many? I asked. Just 3. Of course. Lauren hooked her fingers under one end of the first bench. She made it 6 inches before dropping it. I was going to help. You were going to become a medical event. Richard came outside, saw what we were doing, and called Grant. The 4 of us carried the benches down the slope while Ellen stood on the deck, directing us away from soft patches in the lawn. Halfway down, Grant's end slipped and the bench struck Richard above the ankle. Richard sucked air through his teeth. You all right? I asked. Fine. Ellen leaned over the railing. What happened? Nothing, 3 of us answered. Grant looked up. The bench hit him. Richard stared at his new son-in-law. What? Grant said. She was going to find out when your ankle turned purple. That was Grant. He could participate in a lie, but he lacked the instinct to maintain one. We set the benches on the dock where Lauren wanted them. She stepped back, framed the arrangement with her hands, and asked us to move the center bench 4 inches to the left. Richard bent down, grabbed it, then looked at me. Chips and bourbon, he said. Now you're making sense. Back at the lodge, the anniversary cake had survived the trip, but not Ellen's inspection. A piped yellow rose near one corner had flattened against the lid. It's barely noticeable, Marcy told her. It looks like somebody sat on it. Who sits on one corner of a cake? You know what I mean. I used a butter knife to lift the frosting and shape it back into something vaguely floral. Ellen watched over my shoulder. You always were good at little repairs, she said. It was meant as a compliment. Most of them were. By the time I drove to the motor inn, the sun was gone and my shirt smelled like lake water, frosting, and Howard's aftershave. The motel sign had lost the blue tubing in the second half of Lakeside, so from the road it appeared to be the Lakemont. A woman behind the desk slid a registration card toward me without looking up from a paperback. Mercer, I said. Daniel. She ran her finger down a printed page. 2 nights, single queen. Prepaid by Holloway. Which Holloway? She finally looked at me. Does it matter? I considered that. Probably not. The room was clean enough. Beige coverlet, framed picture of a sailboat, air conditioner that coughed before committing to the job. Through the wall, a television audience applauded every 30 seconds. I sat on the bed and checked my phone. Lauren had sent me a message. You get in okay? Before I could answer, a second one appeared. Also, can you grab 2 bags of ice on your way back tomorrow? Main freezer is useless. I typed, got in fine. Then I typed, yes. I erased the second answer, stared at the blank message field, and typed it again. The next morning, I woke at 6:30, because the couple in the next room believed the bathroom fan offered full legal privacy. At 7, I found a diner across the highway and ate eggs at the counter beside 3 men discussing boat motors with the solemnity of diplomats. Paul called while I was paying. How's the lodge? Rustic. Meaning? I'm at a diner. Is the lodge so rustic it doesn't serve breakfast? The lodge is 15 minutes away. He went quiet. You're not staying there. They ran out of rooms. Hotels are rooms. It's fine. Dan. I put cash beneath my coffee mug. Lauren booked it ahead of time. That makes it worse, not better. I'm not doing this with you at 7:40 in the morning. What time would you prefer to be treated like luggage? The waitress glanced at me as she passed. I turned toward the window. They had couples and immediate family to fit in. Paul made a short sound that held no humor. You are immediate family. Ellen and I are divorced. Did the divorce cancel Lauren? I watched a pickup truck turn into the parking lot. The driver had a yellow kayak strapped sideways across the bed. I've got to get ice, I said. Of course you do. He hung up before I could tell him he was being dramatic. That annoyed me because he was being dramatic, and because he was right. I bought 4 bags of ice instead of 2. The freezer might have been useless, but I was not. At the lodge, the kitchen was already crowded. Denise was making toast for Howard. Marcy had opened every cabinet in search of cinnamon. Ellen stood at the stove in a silk robe, scrambling enough eggs to feed a road crew. There he is, she said. Did you sleep? Eventually. Isn't that motel adorable? No. She laughed as if I had made a joke. Lauren entered barefoot, took a bag of ice from me, and kissed my cheek. You're amazing. I brought 4. See? Amazing. Grant came behind her carrying a coffee maker carafe. You brought coffee? I brought frozen water. He's already contributed more than this machine, Grant said. There were moments like that all weekend, small, easy moments when I could almost believe I had imagined the insult. Howard and I sat on the deck after breakfast and argued about whether electric cars would ever tow anything useful. Richard found a deck of cards, and the 2 of us beat Grant and Tom 3 games in a row. Ellen put on music while Marcy sliced fruit, and when an old Sam Cooke song came on, Ellen and I sang the same wrong lyric without thinking. She looked at me, surprised. Then we both laughed. Richard watched us from the table. There was no jealousy in his face. If anything, he looked pleased that the room had become lighter. That was the problem with being excluded by people who were not consistently cruel. A person could build a comfortable home inside the exceptions. The anniversary dinner began at 5 on the lawn. Lauren had arranged long tables beneath strings of lights, with the lake behind them. Grant wore a blue jacket despite the heat. Ellen wore the dress I had transported in the garment bag, a deep green one that made her silver hair look brighter. Richard's ankle had developed a purple band above his shoe, but he denied any pain while walking like a man with one leg shorter than the other. I spent the first half hour fixing the outdoor speaker. Then one of the light strings went dark. Then Denise asked whether I had anything for Howard's back. I found pain reliever in my glove compartment and brought it to him with a bottle of water. You prepared for everything? He asked. Not everything. Name one thing. I looked toward the dock where the photographer was setting up a tripod. I'll let you know. After dinner, Lauren stood and tapped a spoon against her glass. She spoke about Ellen teaching her to be stubborn, and Richard teaching her that stubbornness could be redirected rather than defeated. She made everyone laugh by describing their first date, when Richard spilled clam chowder into Ellen's purse and tried to clean it with club soda. Then she grew serious. You built a family that makes room for people, she told them. The applause rose around me. I put my hands together because not doing it would have been noticeable. The photographer called us down to the dock before sunset. Lauren had hired her from town, a brisk woman named Celia, who carried 2 cameras and spoke to adults as if we were furniture. She was trying to fit through a doorway. Tall people behind, couples together. If you're wearing transition lenses, take them off unless you want to look like a federal witness. Everyone shuffled into place. I stayed near the benches until Celia pointed to me. Sir, 2nd row, far end. I stepped behind Glenn. Richard stood in the center with Ellen, his hand at her waist. Lauren and Grant took Ellen's other side. Denise and Howard arranged themselves beside them. Closer, Celia said. You all like each other for the next 4 minutes. Lauren came toward me quickly. Dad, could you hold these for a second? The equipment bag was heavier than it looked. She placed the folded reflector on top and moved into the space I left behind. Celia glanced from me to Lauren. Do you want the gentleman in one? Lauren looked toward the horizon. We're running out of light. I watched her decide not to decide. All right, Celia said. Eyes here. Ellen looked at me once. Marcy did too, then adjusted Glenn's collar. Richard's little shrug was so helpless, it almost made me angry. Celia took 6 pictures. Lauren handed me her phone. Can you get one on this too? Just so we have something tonight. I stared at the screen. All their faces waited inside it. Sure. I backed up until the full group fit. Lauren leaned into Grant. Ellen turned toward Richard, and he smiled at her like the weekend had become exactly what it was supposed to be. I took 3 photographs. The first was crooked. The second caught Tom blinking. The third was perfect. Got it, I said. People broke formation and came toward me, talking about drinks and mosquitoes. Lauren took her phone, checked the last picture, and smiled. That's the one. She hurried up the dock to show Ellen. Celia lifted the equipment bag from my hand. Thank you. No problem. Families, she said with a professional little smile. The wind changed while I was standing there. The lake went from blue to the flat gray of sheet metal. On the far shore, the trees blurred behind a curtain of rain. I helped carry the benches up before the storm hit. By 8, thunder was shaking the windows. The hired shuttle was 30 minutes late, then 45. Cell service weakened until every call broke into pieces. The guests who had been drinking began negotiating beds, couches, and floor space. I stacked serving trays in the kitchen while Lauren moved through the lodge with her phone pressed to one ear. She ended the call and came toward me. Dad, can you drive everyone home? She held out my keys. I looked at them, then at her phone. The family picture was still open on the screen. Everyone? I asked. Her hand lowered. Oh, come on, she said. I'm asking. You know what I mean? I thought I did. Her face tightened. Are you seriously doing this now? Doing what? Punishing me because you weren't in one photo. It wasn't one photo, Lauren. It was the family photo. For Mom and Richard's anniversary. With Grant's parents in it. They're part of the family. The words landed between us before she understood their shape. Rain drummed against the roof. In the next room, Howard laughed at something Tom said. Lauren's voice dropped. People need to get back to the hotel, then ask someone from the family photo. She stared at me. For once, I didn't rescue her from the silence. Lauren's mouth opened, but no sound came out. I had seen her angry before. At 16, she had once informed me that I was ruining her life because I wouldn't let her drive a car with a smoking engine. At 24, she had thrown a dinner roll at me after I suggested the man she was dating might already be married. He was, although technically separated on alternate Tuesdays. This was different. Anger usually moved her forward. This seemed to stop her. You don't mean that? She said. I do. Dad, Howard can barely stand up straight. Aunt Marcy has had 3 glasses of wine. Tom's not sober. The shuttle isn't answering. Grant hasn't been drinking. He doesn't drive in storms. I looked through the kitchen doorway. Grant stood beside the fireplace, holding a mug with both hands. He disliked heavy rain, elevators, and ordering food when the menu did not have pictures. I had never mocked him for any of those things, at least not where he could hear me. Richard, I asked. His ankle is swollen. There are 2 sober adults from Ohio. They don't know the roads. Neither did I yesterday. Lauren pressed my keys into my palm. Please, you can be mad at me tomorrow. I closed my fingers around the keys. For 1 second, relief crossed her face. Then I put them on the counter. I can help arrange rides, I said. I'm not driving everybody. That doesn't make sense. It makes sense to me. So you'll stand here and make phone calls, but you won't take people 15 minutes down the road. My motel is 15 minutes down the road. The hotel in town is 35. The roads are safer in your SUV. The roads are the same under every car. That's not what I mean. I know. She folded her arms. You're being childish. I nodded once. Maybe. My agreement frustrated her more than a defense would have. After everything I did to make this weekend nice for Mom, she said, you found a way to turn it into something about you. That hurt because it was close enough to a fear I already had. I reached for the serving trays again, then stopped. There was no reason they needed stacking. I had only been doing it because my hands disliked an argument. I didn't ask to be in the middle, I said. The end of the row would have been fine. Dad, seriously. But you took me out. It was one picture, and now you want the man outside the picture to make sure everybody inside it gets home. She looked away first. Ellen appeared in the kitchen doorway. What's going on? Nothing, Lauren said. Your voice carries when nothing is happening. She came in wearing stocking feet and carrying her shoes. Richard followed slowly, favoring his left leg. The shuttle's not coming, Lauren said. Dad won't drive. Ellen looked at me, then at the keys on the counter. Why not? Lauren answered for me. Because of the picture. Richard's eyes closed briefly. That small reaction told me he understood more than he had admitted on the dock. Ellen set her shoes beside the wall. Daniel, this isn't the time. What time would work? Tomorrow, next week, any time when we're not responsible for getting people safely back to their rooms. I'm not stopping anyone from leaving safely. You have the largest vehicle. There are other vehicles. People have been drinking. I haven't asked them to drive. Richard cleared his throat. I can take a load. You can barely walk, Ellen said. I drive with my hands. You use your ankle for the pedals, only one of them. Despite myself, I almost laughed. Lauren did not. Nobody's driving in that rain with an injured ankle. Dad is the obvious person. There it was again. Obvious. Richard leaned against the counter. Let's slow this down. We don't have time to slow it down, Lauren said. Howard is in pain, and the Holloway's medication is at the hotel. My muscle relaxers, Howard called from the other room, not my heart medication. I don't want anyone committing manslaughter out of concern for my lumbar region. Denise shushed him. I took out my phone. One bar of service appeared, vanished, then returned. There's a car service near the motel, I said. I passed their office this morning. I'll call them from the landline. Lauren stared at me as if I had offered to send everyone home in a wheelbarrow. Ellen's face hardened. Just drive, Daniel? No. It was the first clean no I had given her in years. No softening phrase, no joke, no explanation she could rearrange. Marcy came to the doorway behind Ellen. Grant appeared over her shoulder. Within seconds, the kitchen had become an audience, exactly what I had not wanted. Lauren's cheeks flushed. Fine. Call whoever you want. She moved aside to let me reach the wall phone. The motel clerk answered on the 7th ring. Her voice sounded even less interested than it had at check-in. Do you know the name of the car service down the road? I asked. Weller County Transport. Are they open this late? They're open if Gary answers. Do you have the number? She read it to me. I wrote it on the back of a grocery receipt near the phone. Gary answered on the 2nd ring. He had 2 passenger vans, but only one available driver. He could make the first trip in 25 minutes and return for a second group. The storm was moving east. The cost was high, but not outrageous. We'll pay it, I said. Lauren spoke behind me. I'll pay it. Lauren will pay it. Tell him to come around the service entrance, she said. The front drive floods. I relayed the instruction. For a few minutes, the problem became practical, which was easier for everyone. Names were sorted into 2 groups. Howard and Denise would go first, along with Marcy and Glenn. The Ohio cousins had rooms at a different hotel, so they would wait for the second trip. Tom announced that he was sleeping in his cabin and did not care if the lake rose to his porch. Grant walked up while I was explaining the route to Gary. I could drive, Howard, he said quietly. You don't like storms. I don't like this either. Then stay with your wife. His eyes moved toward Lauren. She stood near the windows, typing hard enough to injure her phone. You should know, he said. She's not upset about the driving. I know. She thinks you waited until people needed you. I didn't schedule the storm. That isn't what I meant. I know that too. He rubbed the side of his jaw. Was it really that bad? The question was sincere, which made it worse. You were in the picture, Grant. I'm her husband. So was Howard. He's my father. Exactly. Grant had no answer for that. He looked at the floor, then said, I didn't notice you weren't there until you said something. I know. That might have been the most honest thing anyone said all night. Gary arrived in a white van with Weller County Transport printed on the side and one windshield wiper moving faster than the other. I helped Howard down the wet steps under an umbrella. This is ridiculous, Howard said as he climbed in. The weather? The whole thing. I couldn't tell which side he meant. Denise hugged me before getting into the van. I'm sorry, she whispered. For what? She pulled back. I'm not sure yet. The van left with 5 passengers. Inside, Ellen and Richard were arguing quietly near the fireplace. I heard my name twice and the phrase our weekend once. I found the motel's business card in my wallet and handed it to the Ohio cousins. I have a queen bed and a dry floor, I said. If the second van can't get here, you can take my room. Where would you sleep? One asked. Home. Lauren was close enough to hear. You're leaving? She said. I was always leaving the lodge, remember? You know what I mean. I picked up my jacket from the back of a chair. The rain's letting up, I said. The roads to my place are south. The storm's going east. So that's it? I'm not sure what you want from me. I want you not to walk out in the middle of this. I've arranged the rides. Nobody's stranded. This is my mother's anniversary. And you had a beautiful picture. She flinched. I regretted it immediately. Not because it was untrue, but because I had sharpened it before handing it to her. Ellen came toward us. Daniel, stay tonight. We can talk in the morning. There's nowhere for me to stay. Take our room, Richard said from behind her. I'll sleep on the couch. Ellen turned. No, you won't. I've slept on worse. It's your anniversary? Richard looked at me. Dan, I'm sorry. Lauren exhaled sharply. Can everybody stop acting like we committed some terrible offense? He wasn't in one photograph. We didn't throw him into the lake. No, I said. You just handed him the bags. Nobody spoke. The line had come too easily. I didn't feel proud of it. I took my keys from the counter. Outside, the rain had weakened to a steady fall, and the gravel reflected the porch lights. Richard followed me to the SUV without an umbrella. You should go back inside, I said. I needed air. You need ice on that ankle. I've had bourbon. That's medically adjacent. I opened the driver's door. He rested a hand on the roof. I should have said something down there. Yes. He nodded, accepting it. I thought Lauren was managing some photographer thing, you heard the photographer ask. I did. And you saw me standing there. I did. The rain gathered in his eyebrows. He wiped his face with one hand. I was having a good day, he said. It was such an inadequate answer that I believed him completely. So you let it be my bad one, I said. He lowered his eyes. I guess I did. I got into the SUV. Richard stepped back and closed the door for me. As I reversed, I saw Lauren standing inside the lodge behind the glass. Her arms were folded tightly across her chest. Ellen said something to her. Lauren turned away. I drove past the motel without stopping. The roads were wet but clear. 20 miles south, the clouds broke apart, revealing a thin strip of stars. My phone vibrated in the cup holder twice, then again. I waited until I reached a gas station before checking it. The first message was from Paul. How's immediate family? The second was from Lauren. I hope you're happy. The third had come from Ellen. Please call me before you make this worse. I stood beneath the gas station canopy, listening to rainwater drip from the edges. Through the window, the clerk watched a baseball game on a small television. I typed 3 different replies and erased all of them. Then Lauren's picture appeared on my screen. She had changed the photograph online. The dock portrait filled the display beneath a caption she must have written minutes after I left. Celebrating the people who always show up. I read it twice. Then I turned off my phone and drove home. The garage door sounded louder than usual at 1 a.m. I parked, shut off the engine, and sat in the dark with both hands on the wheel. The cargo area was empty except for one moving blanket and the plastic crate of tools. I had delivered everything they needed and brought home nothing, which felt about right. The electric griddle was still on the garage shelf. I carried it into the house. The kitchen cabinet door I had tightened before the trip sat perfectly straight. I opened it, closed it, then opened it again because apparently I needed proof that some things stayed where I put them. My phone remained off. I set it on the counter beside the griddle and poured a glass of water. In the silence, I could hear the refrigerator cycling and the faint tick from the clock over the stove. The clock was a wedding gift Ellen and I had received from my aunt. It had hung in 3 kitchens and survived 2 moves, 1 dropped casserole, and the end of our marriage. Ellen hadn't wanted it because the wooden frame did not match the cabinets in her new house. I stared at it until 2 minutes passed. Then I went to bed without unpacking. At 7:20, someone knocked on my front door. I ignored it. The knock came again, followed by 3 quick taps against the glass. Your car is in the garage, Paul called, unless you've finally been abducted by an organized group with excellent parking habits. I pulled on yesterday's pants and let him in. He held a cardboard tray with 2 coffees and a paper bag darkened by grease. He looked past me toward the kitchen. Is that my griddle? Good morning. You've had it since February. It's July. That isn't a defense. He set the coffee on the table, picked up the griddle, and inspected it as if checking for structural damage. Now, you drove home last night, he said. I did, and the highway was clear. Dan. I took a coffee from the tray. Did you bring food or an interrogation? Both. The interrogation has more sodium. He pulled 2 breakfast sandwiches from the bag. I sat across from him at the kitchen table, still wearing 1 sock. Paul was 3 years younger than I was, and had spent most of those years behaving as if I needed supervision. He had a narrow face, a gray beard he trimmed too close, and a way of listening that made a person want to confess to unrelated offenses. You saw the picture? I asked. I did. She posted it while I was driving. I saw that too. How? I'm one of the people she allows on the internet. I'm on the internet. You treat your phone like a smoke alarm. You only touch it when something is wrong. I unwrapped my sandwich. Egg and cheese slid halfway out the side. Paul waited. They left me out of the picture, I said. I gathered that from the picture you were not in. And then the shuttle didn't show, and Lauren wanted me to drive everybody. And you said no. I looked up. How do you know? Marcy called me at midnight. Why would Marcy call you? To find out if you knew where you went. She has my number. She didn't want to call you. That makes no sense. She'd been drinking. At the time, I was apparently Switzerland. I took a bite and chewed longer than necessary. Was everyone all right? I asked. Yes. The van came back. The Ohio people got to their hotel. Howard took his medication. Richard iced his ankle. Western civilization continues. Good. Lauren says you abandoned them. I arranged the cars. She also says you humiliated her in front of Grant's family. I didn't say anything in front of them until she brought everyone into the kitchen. Ellen says you ruined the last night. The storm did most of the work, and Marcy says the family picture was insensitive. I looked at him. Marcy said that? After saying you should have driven them anyway. That sounds like Marcy. Paul sipped his coffee. What do you say? I peeled a piece of cheese from the wrapper. I'm tired. That's not what I asked. It's what I've got. He leaned back and studied me. You're going to apologize, he said. No, you always apologize. I don't always apologize. You apologized to a waiter because Ellen sent back cold soup. He had to carry it. You apologized to me when I backed into your mailbox. You felt terrible. I felt terrible because I backed into your mailbox. You see? It worked. Paul's mouth moved, but he held back the smile. My phone sat black on the counter. I could feel it from across the room. Turn it on, he said. I'm eating. You're hiding. I'm deciding when other people get access to me. That sounded rehearsed. It came to me in the shower. You haven't showered. It came to me while considering a shower. He pointed at me with his coffee. Now I believe you. I turned the phone on. It vibrated continuously for several seconds, loading messages in bursts. 4 missed calls from Ellen, 2 from Lauren, 1 from Grant. Marcy had sent a paragraph, then a second paragraph correcting the tone of the first. Denise wrote that she hoped I had made it home safely. Howard sent a photograph of his medication bottle sitting on the hotel nightstand with the words, "Crisis averted." I laughed before I could stop myself. Paul held out his hand. Let me see, I showed him. I like Howard, he said. So do I. Shame he's part of the enemy coalition. There is no coalition. There's always a coalition. Most of them just have terrible communication. Lauren had left a voicemail at 2:14 in the morning. I played it with the phone against my ear. Dad, call me. I don't even know what happened tonight. You were fine, and then suddenly you decided to punish everybody. If you were upset, you could have said something before we had a crisis. Mom is crying. Richard thinks this is his fault. Grant's parents are uncomfortable. I hope making your point was worth it. There was a second recording from 6:50. We're leaving early. Call me when you're ready to talk like an adult. I set the phone down. Paul did not ask to hear it. How much of that was apology? She thinks I owe her one. She probably thinks you do. Do you? I think you should have said something on the dock. So it's my fault. That isn't what I said. It's what everybody keeps saying with better manners. Paul leaned forward. You asked what I think. I think leaving you out was rotten. I also think you've spent about 40 years smiling through things and then acting surprised when nobody notices your teeth hurt. That doesn't even make sense. It did when I started. I got up and carried my wrapper to the trash. He followed me with his eyes. You tell people you don't mind. You tell people anything is fine. You volunteer before they ask. Then one night you finally don't, and it feels to them like you changed the rules during the game. They put me outside the family. I know. No, you don't. Paul's face changed. The words had come out harder than I intended. He put both palms flat on the table. You're right. I don't know what it feels like to have Lauren do that. But I know what it feels like to have my brother cancel plans because somebody else has a cooler. I looked toward the griddle on the counter. That's cheap, I said. Yes. We sat with that. Paul finished his coffee and stood. The game starts at 1. I thought you'd made other plans. I hadn't yet. I need to return the motel key. There are mailboxes. I left my suitcase there. He blinked. You drove home without your clothes? I was distracted. That's comforting. He tucked the griddle under one arm. Come by if you want. Don't if you don't. I'll survive either way. He reached the front door before I said his name. Paul, he turned. I'll be there. He nodded as if I had told him the weather. After he left, I listened to Ellen's first voicemail. Daniel, please call me. Lauren is very upset, and I need you to understand how this looked. Whatever happened with the photograph, you chose the worst possible moment to object. We could have resolved this privately. Instead, everyone spent the rest of our anniversary discussing you. Her second message was shorter. I wish you had told me you were hurt. Her third arrived 23 minutes after that. You've always said you were fine with Richard and me. If that wasn't true, that is something we need to discuss. By the fourth message, my exclusion from a photograph had become unresolved grief over my divorce. I called her. She answered before the first full ring. Daniel. Good morning. Is it? I heard everyone got back safely. Yes, thanks to the service you called. There was a pause where gratitude might have gone. I opened the refrigerator and looked inside without wanting anything. Did you post that picture? I asked. Lauren did. You were tagged in it. I didn't think last night was the appropriate time to critique her caption. Was the doc the appropriate time to say I belonged in the photo? Ellen exhaled slowly. I could picture her pinching the bridge of her nose. It was an anniversary portrait. Then why were the Holloways in it? They're Lauren's family now, so am I. I know that. You didn't act like it because I didn't stop a photograph, because you looked at me and let it happen. Her voice softened. Daniel, I thought you understood. Understood what? That it was about the family Richard and I built. The refrigerator motor stopped. The kitchen became very quiet. You and Richard got married 4 years ago, I said. Lauren was 32. I don't mean we raised her together. Then what family did you build that includes your former sister-in-law's husband but not Lauren's father? That isn't fair. It's a question. No, it's a trap. I closed the refrigerator. Ellen continued before I could answer. You came to the weekend knowing what we were celebrating. You said you were comfortable. You helped. You joked with Richard. Then, the moment Lauren needed you, you made her feel like she had used you. She did use me. She asked her father for help. She housed her father at a motel and put her husband's parents across the hall. That was about rooms. She took me out of a picture, then handed me my keys. You keep reducing the entire weekend to those two things. They were close together. Ellen's breathing grew sharper. What do you want from her? I don't know. An apology? That would be a start. And then what? She never asks you for another favor. She puts you in every picture. We all prove you're important every time we gather. I didn't ask for any of that. Then tell me what fixes this. The question exhausted me. Even hurt had become a repair job I was expected to manage. I have to return my motel key, I said. Daniel, I'm not ready. To forgive her? To make this easier for you. I ended the call before she could answer. The motel clerk had switched from her paperback to a crossword puzzle when I arrived. My suitcase remained beside the desk, its handle looped with a tag. You forgot this, she said. I noticed. The women from Ohio brought it down, said you gave them the room. Did they use it? No. Their van came. Good. She slid the suitcase toward me with her foot. Bad wedding, anniversary, those two. On the drive back, Grant called again. I let it ring, then felt guilty and answered through the car speakers. Hey, Dan, he said. How are you? Driving, right? Good. I mean, not good that you're driving. That's fine. Obviously. What do you need, Grant? A silence followed. We left 2 patio tables at the lodge, he said. They won't fit in Lauren's car. I kept my eyes on the road. Can you pick them up? He asked. Whenever you're back this way. The old answer rose automatically. I could already see myself turning around, loading the tables, proving I had not become difficult. No, I said. Grant was quiet. All right, he said finally. Neither of us seemed to know how the conversation worked after that. I'll figure something out, Grant said. I'm sure you will. Lauren's going to think this is about her. It is about her. Another silence. All right, he said again. I guess I walked into that. He sounded so tired that I nearly apologized. I opened my mouth, felt the familiar words lining up, and stopped them. Tell her I got home safely, I said. She knows, Paul told Marcy. Apparently we have an emergency broadcasting system. Dan? Yeah? I'm sorry I didn't notice. I tightened my grip on the wheel. Thank you, I said. It was the first thing anybody had said that did not come with instructions for what I should do next. Paul had the game on when I arrived. The griddle sat on his kitchen counter with a bright orange extension cord wrapped around it. "Why is that there?" I asked. "I'm making cheesesteaks at halftime." "You've had 6 months to make cheesesteaks. I lacked the correct equipment. You own a stove. A stove is not a griddle." He pointed toward the living room. "Sit down before you begin criticizing appliances you kidnap." The game was tied. I took the end of the couch I had occupied for years, though not often enough lately. Paul handed me a bowl of pretzels without looking away from the television. Neither of us mentioned the lodge for most of the first half. We complained about a bad call, debated whether the quarterback had lost a step, and watched the same truck commercial 4 times. It was ordinary in a way that almost hurt. At halftime, Paul cooked onions and thin slices of steak on the griddle. Smoke rose into the vent hood, missed it entirely, and filled the kitchen. "You have the heat too high," I said. "I thought you weren't volunteering." "I'm observing. You're doing it in an aggressive tone." He handed me a spatula. I took it. We ate at the kitchen table with the windows open. The griddle worked fine, which felt unfair considering how long I had kept it. "You hear from Lauren?" Paul asked. "Not directly. That means someone else heard from her." Grant called. "For what?" I hesitated. Paul set down his sandwich. "What did they need?" 2 patio tables got left at the lodge, and nothing. Grant asked if I could get them. "Did you?" "No." The word felt less dramatic the second time. Paul nodded slowly. "Good. I don't need applause." "You're not getting applause. You're getting a nod." It was a judgmental nod. All my nods are judgmental. My phone vibrated against the table. Lauren's name appeared on the screen. I let it ring. Paul looked at the phone, then at me. "You can answer, I know." It stopped. A moment later, a message arrived. "Grant told me you won't pick up the tables. Are you planning to punish us every time we need anything now?" I read it twice, then turned the screen face down. "What did she say?" Paul asked. "Nothing useful." "Was it a question?" "Technically. You should answer questions. You hang up on people. I'm not presenting myself as a healthy example." I took another bite, but the sandwich had gone tasteless. The second half began. I watched players run across the screen and retained none of it. By the end of the third quarter, I had composed 8 replies in my head. Everyone sounded either defensive or cruel. I finally typed, "Grant asked," and I said no. "I'm allowed to say no." Her answer came immediately. "Of course you are, but don't pretend this isn't deliberate." I stared at that word. Deliberate. As if a choice only became suspicious when I made it. I wrote, "It is deliberate." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then returned. Wow, that was all. Paul watched me set the phone down. "Feel better?" he asked. "No, good. I'd worry if this were fun." The game went into overtime. Our team lost on a field goal, and Paul blamed a missed tackle in the second quarter, which was irrational enough to comfort me. When I left, he wrapped the remaining sandwich in foil and pushed it into my hand. "Next Sunday?" he asked. I looked at him. "What?" "You're asking ahead of time." "That's how plans work, I remember." "Do you?" I put the sandwich in my jacket pocket. Next Sunday. The house felt colder when I returned, though the thermostat had not changed. My suitcase stayed by the front door until Monday evening. I stepped around it every time I passed, irritated by its presence and unwilling to unpack it. Usually Lauren called on Monday mornings while driving to work. She would tell me about her week, then remember something that needed doing. Sometimes the need was small, a package arriving when she would not be home, a lamp that flickered, a question about what kind of oil went in the lawnmower. Sometimes she did not ask for anything, but I had begun to suspect those calls were accidental. That Monday, the phone did not ring. By noon, I had checked it 7 times. I told myself the quiet was what I wanted. No one was treating me like an emergency service. No one was handing me keys. At 2, I noticed Lauren had removed me from a shared list we used for family events. I could still see the calendar, but I no longer had permission to add anything. At 4, Ellen sent a message. "Give her a little time." I had not asked Ellen for advice. I typed, "I'm not chasing her," then erased it and put the phone in a drawer. The next few days filled with the evidence of habits I had never named. On Tuesday, I reached for my keys at 5:30 because Ellen usually called after work about something in the house. A sticking window, a dripping faucet. Richard was capable with a hammer, but he approached plumbing as a form of personal betrayal. No call came. On Wednesday, I bought 2 containers of soup at the grocery store because Lauren liked the chicken and wild rice from the deli counter. She had been working late on a client presentation. Halfway to the register, I returned 1 container to the cooler. Thursday evening, Marcy called. "I'm not taking sides," she began. "You called the wrong person. I don't have any sides here." "You know what I mean." "I usually don't," she sighed. "Lauren is hurt. I know. She thinks you've been secretly resenting her for years. That stopped me." "Why would she think that?" "Because you said she uses you. She did that weekend." "You didn't say that weekend. I was standing in the lodge kitchen. I thought the location made it clear. Daniel, this is serious." "So was what she did." "I'm not saying it wasn't. I told Paul it was insensitive." "You told me to drive them anyway." "Yes, because 2 things can be true. You can be right about the picture and wrong about the timing." I sat at my kitchen table, looking at the clock over the stove. "What did Lauren tell you?" I asked. "That you were excluded from the portrait, then held everyone's transportation hostage until she apologized." "I arranged transportation. I know. I was there." "Then why repeat it like that?" "I'm telling you how she experienced it. She experienced a professional driver arriving because I called him. She experienced her father refusing her in front of her new family. There it was, new family. You were in the picture too, Marcy." She was silent. "You divorced my brother 21 years ago," I said. "Why were you more family than I was? I'm Ellen's sister. You married Ellen's brother. Not biologically. I'm aware of that. I was at the wedding." Marcy exhaled into the phone. "Ellen and I stayed close after Jim and I split." "I know. You and Ellen stayed close too." "I thought we did." Her voice softened. "Maybe that's why nobody understood the line." "What line?" "The one around the picture." "I didn't question why I was inside it. I didn't question why you weren't. I should have." I rubbed my thumb along a scratch in the table. "Did Lauren ask you to call me?" "No." "Did Ellen?" "No." "Then why are you calling?" "Because you sound awful, and because everyone is talking about you instead of to you. That makes 2 of us." She let that pass. "Are you coming to Ellen's cookout next month?" she asked. I didn't know there was one. "Oh," the small word told me everything. "I'm sure the invitation's coming," she added quickly. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Repair it before I can see it." Marcy went quiet again. "I have to go," I said. "Daniel, don't disappear. I'm sitting in my kitchen. You know what I mean." After we hung up, I opened the family calendar. Ellen's cookout was listed on the first Saturday of August. The event had been added 2 months earlier. My name appeared beneath it with a note: Dan, tables, canopy, grill tools. I had entered the note myself. I laughed once, but there was nothing funny in it. The following morning, Ellen called at 7:10. "The dining room window won't close," she said. No hello. We had moved past greetings and into weatherproofing. "What did you do to it?" I opened it. "That'll happen. There's rain forecast." "Ask Richard." He tried. "It's jammed." I pictured the old double-hung window above the sideboard. It had swelled every humid summer since Ellen bought the house. I had sanded the frame twice and replaced 1 sash cord. "I'm leaving for work in 40 minutes, she said. "Could you come by?" I looked at my coffee. Normally, I would have been searching for my shoes before she finished the question. Her house was 12 minutes away. I knew which side door stuck and where she kept the spare key inside a ceramic bird. "I can't," I said. "What are you doing?" The question came so quickly that neither of us could pretend it was casual. "I have plans." "What plans?" "I'm drinking coffee." "Daniel?" "I'm not available." She lowered her voice. "Are you refusing because of Lauren?" "I'm refusing because you asked, and I don't want to. You've fixed that window before, and now Richard can. He already tried, then a repair company can." She made a short, disbelieving sound. "So, this is what we're doing. I didn't know we were doing anything. You're withdrawing every bit of help you've ever given to prove we didn't appreciate it." "No, I'm deciding one request at a time, which is a very careful way to punish people." The accusation landed, but not cleanly. There was enough truth in it to make me uncomfortable. "Put a towel on the sill," I said. "The rain won't come through much. I know how to use a towel. Then you're all set." I ended the call. At 8:30, I was still sitting at the table with cold coffee and no plans. At 9, a storm rolled through. Rain tapped against my kitchen windows, all of them firmly closed. I thought about Ellen's sideboard and the framed photographs she kept on it. Lauren's wedding, Ellen and Richard in Charleston. A group picture from Thanksgiving with me standing behind the dining chairs because I had come over to carve the turkey. At 9:15, I grabbed my toolbox. I carried it as far as the garage before stopping. The driver's door was unlocked. I opened it, placed the toolbox on the passenger seat, and stood there. Then I took it out again. Inside the house, my phone began to ring. I let the garage door close between us. The rain passed in 20 minutes. Ellen did not call again. That afternoon, she posted the name of a repair company in the family message thread and wrote, in the careful tone people used when they wanted to be overheard, "Found someone reliable. Window fixed." Lauren reacted with a heart. I set my phone down and looked around my quiet kitchen. I had wanted them to learn they could not keep treating me as useful instead of loved. I had not considered how quickly they might learn to do without me. That fear embarrassed me more than the photograph had. I had spent a week proving I could say no, then panicked the moment the people around me accepted the answer. Apparently, I wanted my family to respect my boundaries while remaining inconvenienced enough to miss me. Paul called Saturday evening. "You still coming tomorrow?" "Yes." You hesitated. I was checking my schedule. "You're retired. Retired people have schedules. Name one thing on yours. Watching the game. That's on my schedule. It's shared," he grunted. "Come early. I need a hand at the community center." "With what?" "The woodworking room." "I didn't know you did woodworking." "I don't. That's why I need a hand. You want me to repair something?" "No." You paused. I was breathing. "What's broken?" "Nothing important. A workbench rocks and a cabinet door fell off." "So, two things are broken. The cabinet door is no longer broken. It has achieved freedom." I stared through the kitchen window at my empty driveway. "What time?" I asked. The Westfield Community Center occupied a converted brick factory near the river. I had driven past it for 20 years without entering. Inside, the hall smelled faintly of sawdust, floor wax, and whatever had been cooked in the senior lunch program on Friday. Paul led me downstairs to a long room with concrete floors and windows near the ceiling. Wooden shelves held clamps, hand planes, safety glasses, and jars of hardware labeled by someone whose handwriting became angrier as the screws got smaller. A woman with short white hair stood at a table sanding the leg of a chair. "That him?" she asked Paul. "That's him?" She set down the sandpaper and looked me over. "You're late." "We're 8 minutes early," I said. "Then you're too defensive." Paul grinned. "Daniel, this is Ruth Alvarez. Ruth runs the open shop." "I prevent people from losing fingers," Ruth said. "The shop runs itself badly." She shook my hand. Her palm was rougher than mine. "I told her you used to build furniture," Paul said. "I built 3 bookcases and a dining table. You built my dining table." "I know. I have to look at it every Thanksgiving." Ruth pointed toward a heavy workbench near the back wall. "That thing walks whenever someone uses a hand plane. Tell me why." I crouched beside it. One leg was shorter, but not because it had been cut wrong. The concrete floor dipped near a drain that had been filled years ago. "You can shim it," I said, "but then it'll rock if you move it. We never move it. You will as soon as I shim it." Ruth nodded. "That's how this place works." She did not ask me to fix it. She asked what I thought. The difference was so small I almost missed it. I found a piece of maple in the scrap bin and cut a tapered shim. Paul held the bench while I worked it under the leg. Ruth checked the top with a level, then leaned her weight against both sides. "Good," she said. No amazing, no lifesaver, no suggestion that I had appeared by magic with no other use for my morning. The cabinet door needed new hinge screws and 2 holes plugged. A man named Luis helped me cut dowels while telling me about a walnut record cabinet he had been building for 18 months. He showed me the drawer joints and asked whether the gaps were visible. "Yes," I said. He stared at me. "You asked." "I thought you'd lie. I don't know you well enough." He laughed and handed me the drawer. "How would you fix it?" For the next hour, I forgot to check my phone. Paul had not needed my help. He had signed up for a beginner class and tricked me into walking through the door. I realized it when Ruth set a clipboard on the bench. "Open shop is Tuesdays and Saturdays," she said. "First month is $20. Orientation is required before you use the table saw. I know how to use a table saw. Then orientation will be easy." I didn't say I was joining. "No, you've been standing here for 90 minutes giving Luis opinions for free." Luis looked up from his drawer. He gave me one opinion. It was upsetting. Ruth pushed the clipboard closer. $20, I signed. Paul said nothing until we reached the parking lot. You could have just asked me, I told him. You would have said no. I came here. You came because you thought I needed something. The truth of it irritated me. I'm still deciding whether to go back. Of course. You don't believe me? No, I believe you're deciding. I also believe you already paid Ruth, and you'd cross 3 counties to avoid wasting $20. At his house, the game was delayed by weather. We ate leftover cheesesteak and watched commentators stand on the field, describing rain we could see ourselves. My phone buzzed once. It was a message from Ellen. The cookout is next Saturday at 4. I want you to know you're invited. You don't need to bring anything or fix anything. I read it 3 times. Paul glanced over. Bad? I've been invited to a cookout with a written exemption from labor. That sounds progressive. It sounds pointed. It can be both. What would you do? I'm not the person who was invited. You have opinions about everything else. I'm trying a new thing where I let you make a decision and then criticize it. I put the phone away without answering. The game resumed. Halfway through the second quarter, Grant knocked on Paul's front door. Paul looked through the peephole. Your coalition has found us. Let him in. Grant stood on the porch holding the plastic tool case I had left at Lauren's townhouse months earlier. He wore jeans and an old college t-shirt instead of his usual pressed clothes. Without the jacket, he looked younger and less certain. I went to your house, he said. Your neighbor said your car was gone. My neighbor needs hobbies. I brought your socket set. I took the case. Thanks. Can we talk? Paul stepped aside. I'm going to make coffee. The pot's already full, I said. I'm going to supervise it. He disappeared into the kitchen. Grant sat in the armchair across from the couch. The television showed a receiver dropping an easy pass. None of us commented. How's Lauren? I asked. Angry? At me? At everybody in shifts? That sounds tiring. It is. He rubbed his palms over his knees. She said, You're invited Saturday. I got the message. Are you coming? I haven't decided. He nodded, then looked toward the kitchen. Paul was making enough noise with the mugs to qualify as construction. I'm not here to convince you, Grant said. Why are you here? He took a moment. Lauren asked me to pick up a package for her Thursday. I forgot. She called me unreliable. I waited. She said, My dad would have remembered. That sounds like her. I told her I wasn't you. That also sounds reasonable. She started crying. Grant was uncomfortable with tears. He treated them the way some people treated an unfamiliar dog. No sudden movements. Avoid direct eye contact. Hope the owner appears. I don't know what she wants from me, he said. She's taking care of everything herself now. She drove back for the patio tables. She fixed a loose shelf instead of asking anybody. Yesterday she picked up her mother's dry cleaning during lunch, then got mad because Ellen didn't thank her enough. Why did she pick up Ellen's dry cleaning? Because Ellen mentioned she might not get there before closing. That wasn't a request. I know. I looked toward the rain streaking Paul's front window. Grant leaned forward. Did you mean it? What? When you said she uses you. I meant it that night, but only that night. There are questions that become harder when asked without accusation. I don't know, I said. She thinks you've been keeping a list. I've never kept a list. She knows that. I mean, in your head. I haven't. Then why are you saying no to everything? I've said no 3 times. To the tables, the window, and helping Tom move a refrigerator. I frowned. Tom asked Paul, not me. Tom told Ellen he was going to ask you, and she told him not to. So, now I'm refusing requests I never got? I'm telling you how it looks from over there. Everyone seems very concerned with how things look. He accepted that. The rain delay returned. On television, a grounds crew pulled a tarp across the field. I didn't notice how much you did, Grant said. I noticed individual things. I didn't see the pattern. You shouldn't have to inventory another man's errands. No, but Lauren did. I looked at him. She knew, he continued. Maybe not exactly, but she knew she could call you, and the problem would disappear. I think that made her feel safe. She could have put safety in the picture. Grant looked down. I regretted the line, but less than the one at the lodge. He stood. Come Saturday. You said you weren't here to convince me. I changed my mind. Why? Because she misses you. She has a strange way of showing it. She learned that somewhere. His eyes met mine for half a second, then shifted toward the television. I felt the remark before I understood it. What's that supposed to mean? Grant reached for the socket case, remembered he had already given it to me, and let his hand drop. You don't tell people when they hurt you, he said. You help them more. Lauren does the same thing, except eventually she explodes. You've known me less than a year. I've known her for 5. She thinks taking care of people means they can't leave. The room seemed to narrow around that sentence. Paul stopped making noise in the kitchen. Grant cleared his throat. I'm not saying what happened was your fault. It wasn't. I'm saying she doesn't know what to do with a father who needs something from her. You've never let her practice. I stood too. Being included in a family picture isn't a need that requires practice. No, it should have been automatic. That took some of the fight out of me. Grant moved toward the door. Saturday at 4. I know what time. He nodded. Bring nothing. After he left, Paul returned carrying 3 cups of coffee. He didn't stay, I said. I made his week. You were listening. The kitchen is 12 feet away. He handed me a mug. What did you think? I asked. I think Grant's smarter in a t-shirt. That's your conclusion? I have others. I don't want them, I know. The game was eventually canceled. Paul and I sat through 20 minutes of substitute programming before admitting neither of us cared. At home, I set the socket case on my workbench. One latch was cracked. I found a replacement in a drawer and repaired it before realizing what I was doing. My phone showed no message from Lauren. I opened the family calendar. The note beside Ellen's cookout had changed. My name, the tables, the canopy, and the grill tools were gone. Under supplies, Lauren had written her own name beside all 3. I pictured her loading folding tables into her car, insisting they fit because asking for help had become defeat. Then I pictured myself at home on Saturday, staring at the clock and calling it dignity. I clicked the event. For several minutes, I did nothing. Finally, I marked myself as attending. I did not offer to bring a thing. That lasted until Friday afternoon, when I found myself standing in the garage deciding whether a cordless drill counted as bringing something. It did. I put it back. Saturday morning, Ellen sent the gate code even though I had known it for years. At noon, Marcy texted that the weather looked good. At 2, Grant sent a photograph of 3 folded tables strapped to the roof of Lauren's car. With so much yellow rope, it looked like a hostage situation. She won't let me redo it, he wrote, I replied. Then don't follow too closely. At 3:58, I parked in front of Ellen and Richard's house with empty hands. That was harder than saying no. Normally, I would have arrived an hour early, entered through the side door, and begun solving whatever Ellen had discovered at the last minute. Instead, I walked up the front path like a guest. Richard opened the door before I knocked. You came. You invited me. Yes, but lately those have become separate events. His ankle was better, though he still favored it slightly when he stepped aside. The dining room window stood open behind him. A new metal latch gleamed against the painted frame. Nice window, I said. We paid a man $180 to hit it with a rubber mallet. I would have charged less. Richard studied my face. That was a joke, I said. I'm learning to confirm. He took me through to the backyard. Ellen had rented white folding tables instead of using the wooden ones she kept in the basement. The canopy leaned slightly toward the flower beds. One leg had sunk into the lawn and been propped up with a flat landscaping stone. I noticed everything. I touched nothing. Lauren stood at the grill wearing a denim apron over a sleeveless black dress. She held long metal tongs in one hand and her phone in the other. Smoke blew directly into her face. Turn the burner down, I said before I could stop myself. She looked at me. Or don't, I added. Grant appeared beside her with a platter. I've suggested that twice. You also suggested putting foil under everything, she said. It would prevent flare-ups. It would prevent grilling. She set her phone on the side shelf and adjusted the burner. Neither of us mentioned that she followed my advice. Hi, Dad. Hi, I didn't know if you were coming. I marked the calendar. I saw. The tongs clicked twice in her hand. Mom said not to ask you to help, she said. I heard that too. I wasn't asking. I didn't say you were. Grant looked from one of us to the other. I'm going to take this empty platter somewhere. It can fulfill its purpose. He left. Lauren turned a row of hamburgers. One broke in half and dropped between the grates. Flames rose. Leave it, I said. I know. She closed the lid harder than necessary. In the shade beneath the maple tree, Howard sat with his back against a cushion Denise had brought from home. Marcy and Glenn were arranging bowls on the food table. Tom had arrived with a refrigerator magnet shaped like a trout, which he presented to me without explanation. For your trouble, he said. What trouble? You know. I don't. Neither do I. Ellen told me not to ask you to help with the refrigerator. I didn't know you needed help with a refrigerator. I bought a new one. Delivery people moved it. Sounds efficient. They charge $40. You'll recover. He slipped the trout magnet into my shirt pocket. Family discount. Howard lifted one hand when I approached. The transportation department. Lumbar crisis. He stood carefully and shook my hand. I owe you for the van, he said. Lauren paid. I know. I owe you for finding it. You thank me already. I was medicated. I'm establishing a clean record. Denise hugged me, then kept both hands on my arms. I saw the photograph. I assumed you were in it. Her face tightened. That was poorly handled. By me? Don't make me choose before I've had wine. Howard sat down again. She chose in the car. Denise released me. Howard? She said Lauren should apologize. Marriage used to include confidentiality. That was before you started narrating my medication schedule. Their bickering moved easily around affection. Watching them made me feel both better and worse. Ellen came through the patio doors carrying a tray of sliced tomatoes. She wore white pants, which at an outdoor meal was either confidence or a threat to everyone holding mustard. Daniel, she said. Ellen. She placed the tray on the table and kissed my cheek. The gesture was automatic. We both seemed surprised when it happened. I'm glad you came. Thank you for inviting me. You were always invited. I glanced at her. She corrected herself. You know what I mean. I'm starting to think nobody does. Her mouth pulled to one side. Can we have one pleasant afternoon? I've been here 7 minutes, and so far pleasant. She picked up a stack of napkins and moved them 3 inches. The canopy is crooked, I noticed. Richard and Grant put it up. I didn't ask. No, I'm making conversation. About something you know I could fix, she met my eyes. I'm allowed to mention a crooked canopy, you are. And you're allowed to leave it crooked, I know. This is exhausting, yes. For a second, we almost smiled. The afternoon proceeded with the careful good manners of a holiday meal after somebody changed a will, though no money was involved and nobody knew exactly who had died. People brought me drinks I had not requested. Conversations shifted whenever Lauren came near. I sat beside Paul, whom Richard had invited after discovering he was Switzerland. I don't like this assignment, Paul said. You accepted free food. I'm a corrupt nation. We ate at the rented tables. Lauren had made too much of everything. Hamburgers, chicken, grilled vegetables, 3 salads, corn, and a peach dessert that began melting before dinner ended. She stood twice to refill bowls that were still half full. Sit down, Grant told her. I'm checking the ice. There's ice. The tea is warm. People are drinking it. She looked toward my glass as if I might confirm the temperature. I took a sip. It's tea. Paul kicked my ankle beneath the table. After dinner, Lauren began clearing plates before anyone finished. When Denise offered to help, Lauren said, No, I've got it, in the same bright tone I had used for decades. I saw it then. Not all at once, and not enough to excuse anything. But I saw the speed with which she removed other people's chances to care for her. I saw how a request could become proof of closeness, and how refusing help could become punishment. I recognized the trick because I had taught it without words. That did not make me ready to forgive her. It made me less certain I was standing on clean ground. I carried my own plate to the kitchen. Lauren was at the sink rinsing serving utensils. Where does this go? I asked. You know where the dishwasher is. I'm trying not to assume I'm allowed to help. She shut off the water. Can we talk? The kitchen door was open to the yard. Laughter drifted in from the tables. Marcy had cornered Paul with a story involving a hotel fire alarm. Now? I asked. If I schedule it, you'll say I'm managing you. I might. Lauren dried her hands on the apron and walked toward the front of the house. I followed her into the dining room. The repaired window was raised halfway, letting in a weak breeze. She stood beside the sideboard where Ellen kept the family photographs. There was one from Lauren's wedding, all of us arranged beneath an arbor. I was in that picture, on the opposite side from Ellen and Richard, my hands folded in front of me like a man waiting for a bus. Lauren took a breath. I'm sorry you felt excluded. I looked at her. She heard it as soon as she said it. That came out wrong. It came out prepared. I've been trying to figure out what to say. You could say you excluded me. I didn't do it intentionally. You walked over and removed me. Because Celia was trying to arrange Mom and Richard's family. We've done this. No, you've asked questions you know I can't answer without sounding terrible. Then answer terribly, her eyes flashed. Fine. I wasn't thinking about you. Is that what you want to hear? I was trying to get the picture done before the light changed. Celia had already spent 20 minutes dealing with the benches. Mom hated the way she was standing. Richard's ankle hurt, and I made a decision to leave out your father. Yes. The words struck harder than the explanations. Lauren folded her arms, then unfolded them. I'm sorry, she said. I should have put you in the picture. But I don't understand how one bad decision means everything between us was fake. I didn't say it was fake. You said I use you. I said you use me that weekend. You've made it about every favor I've ever asked for. I've said no to 3 things. You keep counting. Because people keep accusing me of refusing everything. She lowered her voice. You've disappeared. I'm right here. You don't call. You don't answer unless someone calls twice. You didn't ask how my presentation went. You didn't even tell me you were coming today. I marked the calendar. That's not the same. What do you want, Lauren? I want my dad back. The answer came so quickly that I could not dismiss it. I'm standing in front of you, I said. No, you're waiting for me to say exactly the right thing so you can decide whether I deserve you. That's not fair. Neither is finding out at 36 that my father has hated helping me. I never said I hated it. Then why are you acting like every time I called you was evidence? Because I started wondering whether you would have called if you didn't need something. Her face went still. There are things a person can say because they are honest, and things a person can say because they are afraid. Sometimes they use the same words. Lauren looked toward the photographs on the sideboard. You really believe that? I don't know. Then why say it? Because I don't know how else to ask. Her eyes filled, but her voice hardened. You could ask whether I love you. I know you love me. Do you? Yes. Then what is this? I looked at the wedding picture. It's me realizing I've spent years close enough to serve everybody, and still not close enough to claim a place. Lauren wiped beneath one eye with the heel of her hand. Nobody asked you to do all those things. That doesn't mean you didn't let me. You offered. I know. Every time, Dad. You offered. Sometimes I called to talk, and you'd turn it into a project. You'd hear one complaint and show up with a toolbox. That's how I help. That's how you avoid talking. The comment landed with Grant's earlier one, forming something I did not want to examine. Lauren untied the apron. I said, I'm sorry. I don't know what else you expect. I don't either. She gave a small, broken laugh. That's convenient. She walked past me toward the kitchen. Lauren, she stopped but did not turn. I shouldn't have said you only call when you need something. But you think it. I'm afraid of it. She turned then. For a moment, the anger left her face. I could have told her the rest. That I had built my place around being needed. That every errand had been easier than risking a visit with nothing to do. That I was angry at her for believing the story I had spent years telling. Instead, I said nothing. Lauren nodded once, as if my silence had answered for me. Then she went outside and began packing the food before anyone had asked to leave. Nobody asked why dinner ended early. Grant folded the rented tables while Richard gathered trash bags. Denise put lids on bowls without asking Lauren's permission. Howard sat in the shade and offered medical supervision. Paul found me beside the leaning canopy. You gonna fix that? He asked. No. Then why are you staring at it? I'm admiring its independence. One of the ropes had loosened. The canopy shifted whenever the wind came through, then settled back against the landscaping stone. Paul put his hands in his pockets. How did the talk go? She apologized. Good. It wasn't. Then she didn't apologize. She did. It just wasn't enough. For her, or for you. I looked toward the patio. Lauren was wrapping the peach dessert in plastic with sharp, efficient movements. Ellen spoke to her. Lauren answered without looking up. I don't know, I said. Paul nodded. That answer's getting popular. You want me to invent one? No. I want you to stop using confusion as a locked door. I told her how I felt. Did you tell her what you did? What did I do? He looked at me. I knew what he meant. That made me dislike the look more. I offered to help my daughter, I said. Every time. That's a crime now? You can't spend years training a person to pull a lever, then be shocked when she thinks you're a machine. I'm not a machine. Then why do you only visit when there's work? That's not true. When was the last time you went to Lauren's house and sat down? I sat down at Christmas. You assembled a bar cart for 3 hours. There were 42 pieces. Paul glanced at the patio again. Did you tell her you're afraid she won't want you if she doesn't need you? My throat tightened. I never said that. No, you never say anything inconvenient until it has a body count. Nobody died. It's an expression. It's a stupid one. Most expressions are. Lauren came across the lawn carrying 2 foil-covered plates. She offered one to Paul. Peach dessert, she said. He took it. Thank you. She held the other toward me. I'm fine, I said. Her arm remained extended. It's dessert, Dad, not a binding contract. I took the plate. Thank you. You're welcome. Her face was composed again. She had packed the argument away with the leftovers. I'm taking the tables back Monday, she said, in case you were worried. I wasn't. Good. Grant called her name from the driveway. She walked away without saying goodbye. I stayed another 20 minutes because leaving immediately would have looked like a statement, and I was tired of everything I did becoming punctuation. When I finally left, Ellen followed me to the gate. I heard some of it, she said. The dining room window was open. I didn't mean to listen. You didn't close it? That isn't funny. It was a little funny. She glanced back toward the yard. Lauren tried. I know. Maybe you could meet her halfway. I thought I did. You told her she doesn't call unless she needs something. I told her I was afraid of that. After she pushed you. That matters. Ellen's voice lowered. You can be very precise when you're hurt. It lets you wound someone and then explain why the exact wording was fair. I shifted the foil plate from one hand to the other. That sounds like something you've been waiting to say. It's something I learned while married to you. I opened the gate. Daniel, I stopped. She loves you, I know. Then why are you making this so hard? I looked at her white pants. A streak of barbecue sauce marked one knee. Because knowing someone loves you isn't the same as feeling welcome in their life. Ellen's expression changed. I expected an argument. Instead, she looked down at the stain. Drive safely, she said. The peach dessert slid sideways on the passenger seat before I reached the end of the block. I ate it standing over my sink that night. It was too sweet, and the crust had gone soft beneath the foil. I finished all of it. On Tuesday, Ruth stopped me at the woodworking room door and handed me safety glasses. Orientation, she said. I've owned a table saw since 1987, and yet, somehow, you've survived without hearing my rules. Her orientation lasted 40 minutes and included a demonstration of every emergency shutoff, a lecture about loose sleeves, and a story about a man named Bernard who believed safety guards were government jewelry. What happened to Bernard? Luis asked. He moved to Arizona. That's it? What did you expect? A finger story. Ruth pointed at the sign-in sheet. Bernard also stopped signing in. That was his real offense. Afterward, Luis asked me to help choose drawer pulls for his record cabinet. He laid 6 options on the bench: brass, black iron, brushed nickel, 2 wooden designs, and 1 complicated handle that looked like it belonged on a church door. Not that one, I said. That's my favorite. Then why ask me? To see if you had taste. He selected the church door handle. Across the room, a half-built side table stood on sawhorses. Its top was cherry, with a dark mineral streak running through one corner. Whose is that? I asked. Available project, Ruth said. Somebody donated the wood. We're making small tables for the reading room upstairs. I thought this was an open shop, not a volunteer program. It's both. So you do ask people for things. Constantly. I looked at her. She smiled. The trick is, you can say no. Without a family crisis, we'll struggle on. I chose 2 straight boards for the legs. The work took most of the afternoon. I measured twice, cut once, and still ended up trimming 1 leg because the floor beneath the assembly table was uneven. Ruth passed by, watched me correct it, and said nothing. You're allowed to criticize, I told her. I'm waiting to see if you need me. I don't. Then I'm doing excellent work. I went back Thursday to sand the top. Saturday, I applied the first coat of oil. The cherry darkened under the rag, and the mineral streak turned almost black. It was not flawless. One joint showed a thin glue line if the light hit it from the side. Luis crouched to inspect it. I can see the gap, he said. You've been waiting a week to say that. Worth it. For the first time since the lodge, I drove home without checking whether anyone had called. Ellen's car was in my driveway. She sat on the front step with a glass casserole dish on her lap. When I got out, she lifted it like proof she had brought official business. You left before we divided the pasta salad. I spent years trying to leave before pasta salad distribution. You didn't succeed. She followed me inside and placed the dish in the refrigerator. It occupied most of the lower shelf. That's enough for 8 people, I said. You always eat leftovers, not as a profession. She closed the refrigerator and looked around the kitchen. Her eyes settled on the straight cabinet door. I didn't come about a repair. I didn't think you did. Good. What did you come about? She sat at the table. I remained standing until that began to feel theatrical, then sat across from her. Lauren and I had an argument, she said. About me? Not exactly. Then I don't need to know. She told me I don't appreciate her. I folded my hands. Ellen waited for a reaction. What happened? I asked. She returned the rented tables before work. Then she picked up my prescription, which I did not ask her to do. She came over with it and started reorganizing the food in my refrigerator. Was that necessary? No. But she said the top shelf was unsafe. What was on it? A watermelon. Whole? Half? In a bowl? Daniel, I'm establishing risk. Ellen rubbed her forehead. I told her to sit down. She said she didn't have time. I said no one had asked her to do any of it, and she started crying. I looked toward the clock over the stove. What did you say then? I asked why she was upset. That probably helped. She said she was tired of being the only dependable person in the family. The sentence sounded familiar enough to have come from my own mouth, though I could not remember ever speaking it. Ellen watched me. She's trying to replace everything you did. I didn't ask her to. I know. Do you? Yes. The force in her answer surprised me. She looked down at her hands. I didn't notice all of it either. The propane tank was empty before the cookout. You always checked it. The extra chairs were dusty because you usually wipe them down. Richard couldn't find the grill tools because you kept them in the garage cabinet, not the kitchen drawer. None of those things is important. Until nobody does them. That isn't what I meant. I know. She traced one finger along a scratch in the tabletop. Was I using you? She asked. I could have said yes. Part of me wanted the clean satisfaction of it. Sometimes, I said. She nodded slowly. Were you using us? The question caught me off guard. For what? To feel necessary. I leaned back. Ellen's expression held no triumph. If anything, she looked tired. You came over every time I called, she said, even after Richard moved in. Sometimes I thought it was kindness. Sometimes I thought you wanted me to know he couldn't do things you could. That's not fair. No, it probably isn't. But I wondered. I never tried to interfere with your marriage. I know. You helped it. That was almost stranger. She gave a small laugh without humor. You made yourself so useful that asking you to stop felt cruel, she said, and accepting it felt easy. I looked at the clock again. 2 minutes passed, then 3. I don't know what you want me to say. Nothing. I'm starting to understand why that's your favorite answer. She stood and took her purse. At the door, she turned. You should call Lauren. She can call me. She thinks she already tried. She apologized so we could stop talking about it. Maybe, or maybe she doesn't know how to stay in a conversation she can't fix. That sounds familiar. Yes, Ellen said. It does. She left me with enough pasta salad to last a week. That evening, I opened Lauren's contact on my phone. My thumb hovered over the call button. I imagined her answering with that guarded hello. I imagined trying to explain what I had barely admitted to myself. I imagined her mistaking my fear for another accusation. Then, the screen lit up in my hand. Lauren was calling me. I answered before I could lose my nerve. Hello? You sound surprised. I was about to call you. Lauren was quiet. That sounds convenient, she said. It does. Another silence opened between us. I could hear a turn signal clicking on her end. Are you driving? I asked. I'm parked. Then what's the clicking? I left the signal on. You should turn it off. I know. The clicking continued for 3 more beats, then stopped. Mom came to see you, she said. She brought pasta salad. That wasn't my question. You didn't ask a question. Did she tell you we fought? Yes. Of course she did. She was worried. She was collecting allies. I'm not an ally. You're her ex-husband. That's a confusing category. We've managed it for 12 years, have we? I leaned against the kitchen counter. I'm not discussing your argument with her. Why not? Because then I'm back in the middle, explaining each of you to the other. Nobody asked you to explain me. You called to ask what she said. That isn't the same. It's adjacent. She let out a breath. Fine. I waited. I'm sorry about the cookout, I said. For what part? For saying you only call when you need something. You said you were afraid of it. I shouldn't have made you carry my fear like it was evidence. The line sounded too polished. I had been turning it over since Saturday. Lauren heard that too. Did Uncle Paul give you that? No. Mom? No. Grant? Not everybody writes my dialogue. Could have fooled me. I almost smiled. I mean it, I said. I know. She did not say she forgave me. A car horn sounded faintly on her end. Are you in a parking space? I asked. I'm at the grocery store. You hate sitting in grocery store parking lots. That's why I'm calling you. So this is emotional exposure under duress. Pretty much. I looked at the refrigerator, Ellen's pasta salad pressed against the glass shelf in a bowl large enough to bathe in. What did you need? I asked. The question slipped out automatically. Lauren did not answer. I closed my eyes. That came out wrong. No, it didn't. I didn't mean need like a favor. I know what you meant. Do you? She gave a tired laugh. This is impossible. It's new. What is? Us talking without a task. The line went quiet enough that I checked the screen to make sure the call had not dropped. Finally, she said, I'm making a photo wall. I opened my eyes. At the townhouse? In the upstairs hallway. Grant says it'll make the hall look narrower, but the hall is already narrow, so I don't know what he thinks we're protecting. Wall space. You're doing it too. Doing what? Making the safe joke. I pushed away from the counter. All right, I said. Tell me about the photographs. I pulled everything out. The wedding pictures, Mom's boxes, the albums from your house that I borrowed last Christmas. You still have those? Yes. I've been looking for the blue one. You have not. I noticed it was gone. When? Recently? She did not challenge that. I was sorting pictures by year, she said. I thought I'd choose one from each family event. The word family sat between us. I stayed quiet. Dad, you're not in them. I looked at the clock. I'm in some. You're in Christmas pictures when somebody used a timer. You're in the wedding. You're in 2 restaurant pictures because a server took them. That sounds like more than none. Stop. Her voice broke on the word. I gripped the edge of the counter. Lauren continued more slowly. Thanksgiving at Aunt Marcy's, you're cutting the turkey in the background. Mom's 50th birthday, there are 40 pictures and you aren't in one. The beach weekend, you took every photo. There's a reflection of you in the sliding door. I remember that house. Do you remember being in anything? I was there. That isn't what I asked. I pictured the rental house with the green shutters, Ellen and me divorced less than a year, everybody trying to behave normally. I had kept myself busy with the grill, the coolers, the camera. In photographs, a person had to decide where to stand. Behind the camera, nobody had to make room. You're in more recent ones, I said. Not many. People use phones now. There are probably others. I checked Mom's account. I checked mine. I checked Marcy's. Grant gave me his old phone. Why are you doing this to yourself? I don't know. Yes, you do, she breathed in. The doc wasn't the first time, she said. I could not answer. I thought it was, she continued. I thought I made one careless choice, and you attached every old feeling you had to it. But I looked, and you're always carrying something, or standing off to one side. Half the time, your plate isn't even on the table yet. That doesn't mean I wasn't included. No, but it means I should have noticed. Her voice had changed. The apology at the cookout had been offered like a receipt she wanted me to sign. This sounded like something she had discovered without knowing where it would lead. I should have asked someone else to take pictures, she said. I could have asked too. You were my dad. I was an adult with a voice. You used it to tell us you were fine. That's true. Why? The question was so simple it left me nowhere to hide. Because after the divorce, I didn't know what I was, I said. You were still my father. To you. But at gatherings, I was Ellen's ex-husband, Richard's predecessor, the man people had to place. Nobody thought of you like that. I did. A shopping cart rattled past her car. I could always carry something, I said. There's an obvious place for the person holding the cooler. Lauren sniffed. Was that easier? She asked. Yes, even when it hurt, especially then. The answer came before I could make it prettier. She went quiet again. I walked to the table and sat down. I liked helping you, I said. Most of the time. You called, and I knew exactly how to be your father. Pick this up, fix that, drive there. I could do those things. You could have just come over. And done what? Sat on the couch. I'm not good at that. I know. There was affection in it. Faint, but there. I don't hate helping you, I said. I need you to understand that. Then why stop? Because I didn't know if I was helping because I wanted to, or because I was afraid not to. Afraid of what? I watched a cloud move across the rectangle of light on my kitchen floor. That if I stopped being useful, you'd realize you didn't miss me. Lauren inhaled sharply. I had told Paul I never said that. Now that it was spoken, it sounded both more pathetic and more honest than I expected. Dad. I know. No, you don't. Her voice shook. You don't get to say something like that. And then, I know me. I'm sorry. Did you really think that? Not every day. That isn't an answer. Yes. The word was barely audible. She began crying in earnest, not loudly. I heard the rustle of a tissue box and the click of her car door locking automatically. I'm sorry, I said again. You should be. I am. I called you all the time. I know. Sometimes I invented things. I frowned. What? The lamp didn't flicker. Which lamp? The one in the guest room. I replaced that switch. I know. There was nothing wrong with it? It flickered once. Maybe. I could have ignored it. Why didn't you just ask me to come over? Why didn't you come over? The absurdity caught us at the same time. Lauren made a wet, half-laughing sound. I laughed too. We're not very good at this, I said. No, I wasted a good switch. It was $6. It was a commercial-grade switch. Of course it was. We stayed on the phone without speaking for a while. I could hear people moving carts through the parking lot. In my kitchen, the refrigerator kicked on. Did you delete the doc picture? I asked. No. I appreciated the honesty, though I did not understand it. Why not? Because deleting it would be another way of pretending it didn't happen. What about the caption? That's gone. I had not checked. I had avoided the post as if it could see me looking. I wrote it because I was angry, she said. I figured. I wanted people to think you were the one who didn't show up. I figured that too. Did it work? For some of them. She exhaled. I'm sorry, thank you. No qualification. Not from me. A door slammed in the distance. I have to buy groceries, she said. What are you making? I don't know. Grant wants to learn how to cook fish. That sentence contains two dangers. He bought a cast iron pan. He owns one. He says this one is specifically for fish. It isn't. I told him that. We were back on safe ground, but it did not feel quite as false as before. Dad, yeah? Will you come over Thursday? The automatic yes rose in me. I held it back long enough to hear the question. What for? Dinner, nothing is broken. You don't have to bring tools. Who's cooking? Grant. Then something may be broken by the time I leave. Probably. I looked at the calendar on my refrigerator. Thursday had nothing written on it. I was glad, then annoyed at myself for being glad. I'd like to come, I said. 6:30? Okay. She did not call me amazing. She did not say I was saving her. See you Thursday, she said. After we hung up, I sat at the table until the refrigerator stopped humming. Then I opened the family photo online. The caption now read simply, Mom and Richard's anniversary weekend. Comments beneath it admired the lake, Ellen's dress, the sunset, and the size of the group. Howard had written that no gathering was complete without a functioning lumbar spine. Denise had replied that no marriage was complete without selective muting. I enlarged the picture. At the far right edge, beside Marcy's shoulder, the folded reflector rested against the bench where I had set it before taking Lauren's phone. That was all there was of me, an object I had been asked to hold. I closed the photograph. Upstairs, the hallway wall at Lauren's house was probably covered in empty spaces she was trying to fill. For years, I had mistaken being the person behind the camera for proof that I belonged in every picture. Lauren had mistaken my willingness to disappear for comfort. Neither of us had known how much we were asking the other to pretend. My phone vibrated with a new message from her. Don't wear anything you care about. Grant is experimenting with oil. A second message arrived. That sounded wrong. Cooking oil. I laughed alone in the kitchen. Then I typed back, I understood. And this time, I did. Grant opened the door, wearing an apron that said, kiss the cook, and an expression that advised against it. "Before you come in," he said, "the smoke detector is malfunctioning." The detector shrieked from upstairs. "It sounds committed to its work. It's reacting to olive oil." "Olive oil is smoking?" "Not anymore." Lauren appeared behind him and waved a dish towel at the ceiling. I told him the pan was too hot. "You also told me cast iron takes longer to heat," Grant said. "It does?" Then it should have given me more warning. The smoke detector chirped again. I had left my tool case at home. I had even removed the pocket screwdriver from my keychain, because taking it felt like cheating. I stood in their entryway holding nothing but a bottle of iced tea I had bought after a 15-minute debate with myself over whether a beverage violated the rules. Lauren noticed it. "You brought something. People bring drinks to dinner. You were given specific instructions." "I was told not to bring tools. You were told you didn't have to bring anything." Different sentence. She took the bottle. "I'll allow it." Her smile was cautious but real. The upstairs hallway looked like a small gallery had suffered an earthquake. Frames leaned against the wall in groups. Photographs covered the carpet, each resting on a sheet of brown packing paper. Blue painter's tape marked rectangles above the baseboard. I stopped at the foot of the stairs. "Don't judge the spacing," Lauren said. I wasn't. "You tilted your head. My neck is stiff. It only gets stiff around poor measurements." Grant returned to the kitchen. I told her the center line is too high. "It isn't," she called after him. I walked upstairs slowly. She had found pictures I had forgotten existed. Ellen standing barefoot in the kitchen of our first house, laughing with a wooden spoon in her hand. Paul and me at a baseball game, both wearing mustaches we should have been arrested for. Lauren at 23 between Ellen and me at a restaurant, holding 2 forks over a shared slice of cake. Most of the frames were empty. "You haven't chosen them all," I said. I stopped. "Why?" "Because every time I found one I liked, I started checking who was missing. You'll never finish that way. I know." She knelt and picked up a photograph of Marcy's old backyard. A dozen adults sat around 2 picnic tables. I was barely visible through the open kitchen window, washing something at the sink. "You don't have to make this a trial," I said. "I'm not. It looks like evidence. That's because you're defensive around printed material. I'm trying to help." "No, you're trying to make me feel better." I looked at the pictures around my shoes. "Is that bad?" "Sometimes." She set the photograph down. "I don't want to build a wall that proves I'm sorry," she said. "That would be weird." "Very. I want pictures I actually want to see. That's usually the idea. But now I know where you were." I crouched beside her. My knees objected. "You also know where I chose to be," I said. "Behind the camera, or in the kitchen, or loading the car." "Yes." She looked at the picture again. "Did Mom ask you to wash dishes that day?" "I don't remember." "Would it matter?" "No." "Then why did you do it?" "Probably because they were there." "That isn't an answer. Sometimes a dish is just a dish, Lauren." She smiled. "That sounds like something printed on a bad kitchen sign. Put it on the wall. I'm trying to improve the wall." From downstairs, Grant called, "The fish may be ready." Lauren glanced at me. "Maybe." The cod had blackened edges and a pale center. Grant placed it on the table with roasted potatoes and a green salad that looked professionally assembled. "The fish is resting," he announced. "It's hiding," Lauren said. I watched 3 videos. Were any of them about cooking? I cut into my portion. Steam rose from the center. "This is fine," I said. They both stared at me. "What?" Lauren pointed her fork. "That word is banned in this house tonight." "I meant it's good. That's a different word." I took a bite. It needed salt and had enough lemon to remove paint, but it was cooked. "It's good," I said. Grant sat down. "Thank you." Lauren tried it and made a face. "Don't," he warned. I didn't say anything. "You did it with your entire head." He ate his own fish, chewed, and reached for the salt. Dinner moved in starts. We discussed Paul's woodworking class, Ruth's rules, Grant's ongoing fight with the upstairs smoke detector, and Lauren's presentation, which had gone well despite the fact that I had failed to ask about it before the cookout. I listened while she described a client who used the phrase elevated simplicity 14 times in one meeting. "What does it mean?" I asked. "It means they want everything expensive and beige. That sounds simple. See? You could do my job." "No, I'd get fired during the first beige meeting. Nobody asked me to repair anything. The absence of requests became so noticeable that I almost wished for a loose handle. After dinner, Grant began clearing the table. I can help, I said. Lauren and Grant both turned. I'm offering to clear dishes, I said. This is not a psychological event. We should let him, Grant told her. He needs practice. I'm still in the room. We carried plates to the kitchen. Grant opened the dishwasher and began arranging everything according to a system that involved placing all the forks in one section and all the spoons in another. That way, unloading is faster, he explained. Loading takes longer, I said. That isn't the point. That is exactly the point. Lauren leaned against the counter, watching us argue about cutlery. Some of the guard had left her face. When the kitchen was clean, she walked me to the door. Grant remained upstairs, standing on a chair and insisting the smoke detector needed recalibration. You could ask your father, Lauren called. I don't need help. She looked at me. See? Everybody's learning. Outside, the evening was warm and smelled like cut grass. My SUV sat beneath the streetlight. Thank you for coming, she said. Thank you for asking. I mean it. So do I. She rubbed her thumb along the edge of the door. Do you want to help me hang the pictures? She asked. I looked toward the upstairs window. Not tonight. Her expression changed for half a second, then steadied. Okay, I'd like to help another day, if you still want me to. I do. How about Tuesday? I have a late meeting. Saturday morning? She considered it. Saturday at 10. Good. We had made a plan instead of creating an emergency. As I turned to leave, she said, Dad? I looked back. Would you have said yes tonight if you actually wanted to? No. She nodded. Good. I drove home without waiting to see whether she closed the door. Saturday morning, we hung 9 photographs. Grant measured. Lauren adjusted. I drilled the anchors. At 11:30, Lauren ordered sandwiches and made us stop working to eat them at the table. The wall still had gaps, including one large empty space near the center. I asked what she planned to put there. I don't know yet, she said. I did not offer suggestions. At the woodworking room, the cherry table was ready to go upstairs. Ruth made Louise carry one end because, according to her, I had developed ownership posture. It means you're walking around the table like you gave birth to it, she said. I built it, for the reading room. I know where it's going. Then take your hand off the top. Louise and I carried it up 2 flights of stairs. The reading room had tall windows, mismatched chairs, and shelves of donated books. We placed the table between 2 worn armchairs. It rocks, Louise said. It does not. He pushed one corner. The table shifted slightly. I crouched to check the legs, then saw the floor dip near the wall. Floor's uneven, so you built a perfect table for an imperfect world. You've been spending too much time with Ruth. He handed me a felt pad. I placed it beneath one leg and checked again. Steady. A woman reading near the window looked over. That's lovely. Thank you, I said. She returned to her book. No one photographed me beside it. Nobody announced that I had saved the reading room. The table simply became part of the place. It was enough. Lauren and I began speaking twice a week, though neither of us admitted it was a schedule. The first few calls lasted less than 10 minutes. She told me about work. I told her Louise had chosen the ugliest drawer handles in North America. Sometimes we ran out of things to say and stayed on the line anyway. She still asked for help. The difference was that she asked directly. Can you drive me to pick up my car Thursday? She said one evening. The shop closes before Grant gets off work. I have open shop Thursday. Oh. I waited for the disappointment to become accusation. All right, she said. I'll ask Mom. I could take you Wednesday if the car's ready. It won't be. Then I can't. Okay. Okay? Yes, Dad. That's the word people use. You're sure? No, I'm going to post a vague caption about unreliable men. I laughed. She took a rideshare Thursday. Friday morning, she called to complain that the driver had spent the entire trip explaining cryptocurrency. You should have waited for Grant. I considered getting out at a red light. The world had not ended because I had plans. Ellen stopped calling me for repairs. At first, that felt pointed. Then Richard asked me to recommend a plumber, and I gave him a name without offering to meet the plumber at the house. Appreciated, he said. That was all. Paul and I watched 4 Sundays in a row. On the 5th, he canceled because he had been invited to a concert. You have other plans? I asked. Try not to sound abandoned. I'm surprised anyone enjoys your company. A woman named Joanne is willing to test it. Is this a date? Mind your business. Do you need me to drive? He hung up. By October, the leaves along my street had begun turning orange. The family group messages returned to normal levels of uselessness. Marcy shared pictures of a chair she wanted to reupholster. Howard sent a weekly update about his back, whether anybody asked or not. Lauren added me to the family calendar again, but left my name off the supply lists. The doc photograph remained online. I no longer checked it. One Tuesday evening, Lauren called while I was rubbing oil into a walnut box at my workbench. "Are you busy Saturday?" she asked. "What do you need?" I heard myself and laughed. "Sorry, habit, dinner. Just you and Grant?" "Mom and Richard, too." I set down the rag. "Why?" "Because I want the 4 of you there. That's 5 people." "You know what I mean? I rarely do." She took a breath. "This isn't an ambush," she said. "Nobody has a speech. That sounds like something said before an ambush." "Dad." "All right, 6 o'clock. You don't have to bring anything. What are we eating? Food? Who's cooking?" "Me, then I'll come." There was a pause. "I heard that," Grant called in the background. "Good," I said. Lauren laughed, then grew quiet. "There's something I want to show you," she said. "Is it on the photo wall?" "Yes." "What?" "If I tell you, then I can't show you." I looked at the walnut box, its grain darkening beneath the oil. "Saturday at 6, I said. After we hung up, I considered calling Ellen to ask what she knew. I didn't. Whatever waited on that wall, I wanted to arrive without rehearsing my response. I arrived at 5:58 with nothing in my hands. The walnut box was in the back of the SUV under a moving blanket. I had brought it as insurance against arriving empty-handed, then decided that carrying it inside would defeat something I was still trying to learn. Grant opened the door. "No beverage?" he asked. "I'm respecting instructions." "You look uncomfortable." "I am." "Good." Lauren said this was about growth. He stepped aside. The house smelled like onions and rosemary. Ellen and Richard were already in the living room, seated at opposite ends of the couch as if a mediator had assigned positions. Richard stood when he saw me. Ellen did not, but her shoulders relaxed. "You came," she said. "People keep saying that." "Because lately you make attendance suspenseful," Richard said. Lauren entered from the kitchen, wearing a green sweater and carrying a wooden spoon. "Dad." "Lauren," she looked at my hands. "You didn't bring anything. I can go get something." "No." That sounded alarmed. "Your presence is the thing." Richard leaned toward me. "We were told not to react when she says things like that." "I did not give that instruction," Lauren said. "Grant did." Grant returned from the kitchen with 5 glasses. I said, "Don't make it weird." "And how's that going?" Ellen asked. He handed me iced tea. The photo wall ran along the upstairs hallway, visible from the living room if I stood near the foot of the stairs. Most of the frames were filled now. From where I stood, I could see the restaurant picture, the baseball game with Paul, and a photograph of Ellen and Lauren laughing over a mixing bowl. Near the center was a large empty frame, not a missing photograph, no cardboard backing, no sample picture of strangers smiling on a beach. Just white walls surrounded by dark wood. Lauren followed my eyes. "After dinner," she said. I took a drink. "Is that a threat?" "It's a schedule." "Your mother loves schedules," Ellen said. "You taught me. I taught you calendars. You turned them into a form of government." Lauren returned to the kitchen before Ellen could see her smile. Dinner was pot roast, mashed potatoes, and carrots. The food was good enough that Grant looked personally betrayed. "You cooked this?" he asked. "I live here?" That wasn't the question. I followed a recipe. I followed 3 fish videos, and used the smoke detector as a timer. We carried our plates to the table. There were no decorations, no speeches, and no professional photographer. The dining room light was slightly too bright. A stack of unopened mail sat on the sideboard beside a bowl of keys. It looked like an actual dinner, which made the careful silence around it more obvious. Richard asked about the woodworking room. "I heard you made a table," he said. "Who told you?" "Ellen." I looked at her. "Paul told Marcy," she said. "Marcy told me. Nobody is conducting surveillance." "Not successfully," Grant added. "What kind of table?" Lauren asked. "Cherry. Small. It's in the reading room." "Do you have a picture?" "No." Everyone paused. I looked around the table. "It's a table, not a lunar landing." "You made something and didn't photograph it?" Lauren asked. "I forgot." She considered that, then nodded. "All right." The conversation moved on. Richard described a disagreement with a contractor over bathroom tile. Ellen interrupted 3 times to correct details nobody needed. Grant told us his office had begun using standing desks, though half the staff raised them only when management walked by. Lauren ate slowly. She usually finished before everyone else and began clearing. This time, she left her plate on the table until Richard took his last bite. I noticed. She saw me notice. Neither of us said anything. When dinner ended, Grant collected the plates. Richard stood to help. Ellen reached for the serving dish, but Lauren touched her wrist. "Leave it. I can carry a pot roast." "I know." "Sit for a minute." Ellen sat. Grant and Richard disappeared into the kitchen. Cabinet doors opened. Water ran. Richard asked where the foil was, and Grant said the same place it had been the last 4 times he visited. Lauren folded her napkin once, then again. I asked everyone here because I didn't want to have 5 separate versions of this conversation. Ellen looked toward the kitchen. Should they come back? "Grant, I'm here," he called. "You're washing dishes. I can hear and wash." Richard appeared in the doorway holding the roll of foil. "I can't do either efficiently." "Come sit," Lauren said. The men returned to the table. Lauren looked at me. "Now we can go upstairs. Do we all need to?" "Yes." We climbed in a line, which would have been funny under different circumstances. Richard used the railing. Ellen told him his ankle had been healed for months. He told her the stairs remained stairs. At the top, we stood before the wall. The empty frame was larger than I had thought, 16 by 20, with a wide walnut border. It hung level. I checked without tilting my head. Lauren placed her hands in the back pockets of her jeans. "I bought that frame 3 weeks ago," she said. Then I kept trying to decide what went in it. "You could use a smaller picture with a mat," I said. "Dad." "Sorry." I thought about asking everyone to recreate the dock photo. My stomach tightened. "I wasn't going to make you hold anything," she added. "That isn't funny." "It's a little funny." Grant looked at me. "It is." I let them have it. Lauren faced the wall. "I thought if we took the same picture and put you in the middle, it would fix the story." "No," Ellen said quietly. Lauren glanced at her. "No," Ellen repeated. "It would turn what happened into a before and after display." "That's what Grant said." Grant nodded. "I occasionally have useful thoughts." "You should photograph those," Richard said. Lauren touched the bottom edge of the empty frame. "I don't want to manufacture proof that we repaired everything," she said. "I don't want to choose some old picture and pretend it represents us now. And I don't want to delete the dock picture and act like it never happened." I looked at the blank wall inside the frame. "So, I left it empty," she continued. "Not as a punishment. Not to make you feel guilty every time you come over. It's doing some of that. I know." She turned toward me. "I want to earn a picture that's true." The hallway became still. From downstairs came the quiet hum of the refrigerator. "What does that mean?" I asked. "I don't know yet." I almost laughed. The answer belonged to both of us now. Lauren took a breath. "But I know it can't be a picture where I drag everyone into position and tell them what it's supposed to mean." Ellen lowered her eyes. "I also know I can't apologize until you stop being hurt," Lauren said. "That's what I tried to do at the cookout. I wanted to say the correct words, have you accept them, and get my father back exactly the way he was. You have your father. I have a version who says no sometimes. That's the current model. It took adjustment." I smiled despite myself. Her face grew serious again. "I'm sorry I removed you from the family picture. I'm sorry I saw you holding those bags and didn't stop. I'm sorry I asked you to drive everyone, as if being useful should have been enough to make you feel included. And I'm sorry I posted that caption to make people blame you. No one moved. I was cruel," she said. "Not just careless." The word made me want to protect her from it. That instinct had saved us from too many honest conversations. "Yes," I said. "You were." Tears appeared in her eyes. She nodded. Ellen spoke behind me. "So was I." We turned. She stood beside Richard, her hands clasped at her waist. "I saw Daniel's face on the dock," she said. "I knew immediately." Lauren looked at her. "You said you thought he understood." I lied. Ellen's voice remained calm, but one hand tightened around the other. I knew he was hurt. I also knew that if I stopped the picture, everyone would have to discuss where he belonged. On my anniversary, in front of Richard's family. "My family wasn't there," Richard said. "Other than Tom, you know what I mean." "Yes," he said. "I do." Ellen looked at me. "I wanted the day to remain easy," she said. "You have always been the person most likely to pay for that." I leaned against the wall. "You looked away," I said. "Yes. You could have called my name." "Yes. Why didn't you?" Her eyes shone. Because if I admitted you belonged in that picture, I would have to admit how much of our family still rested on you. I didn't want that in a portrait celebrating my marriage to someone else. Richard's face shifted, but he did not interrupt. That isn't Richard's fault, she said quickly. I know, I said. It isn't yours either. I know that too. I'm sorry, Daniel. The apology did not undo the dock. It did something quieter. It removed the argument that I had imagined what everyone else had seen. Thank you, I said. Richard rubbed a hand over the back of his neck. My turn, I guess. This isn't mandatory, Lauren said. It feels fairly mandatory. He looked at me. I heard the photographer ask if you should be included, he said. I saw Lauren hesitate. I thought about saying something. But you were having a good day, I said. His mouth tightened. Yes. He had said it in the rain beside my SUV. Hearing it here made the excuse look smaller. I let your silence do the work, he continued. I knew you wouldn't make a scene. I counted on it. That makes two of us, Ellen said. I'm sorry, Dan. I nodded. Grant stood at the edge of the group. I genuinely didn't notice, he said. That sounds terrible in a different way. It does, Lauren told him. I noticed the photographer was rushing. I noticed my dad's back hurt. I noticed my jacket was too hot. I didn't notice Daniel was missing, even though he was holding the equipment 10 feet away. He looked at me. I'm sorry I treated not noticing as innocence. That one surprised me. I looked back at the empty frame. You've all had time to prepare, I said. Lauren tensed. We have. I haven't. You don't have to say anything, but that would have been the old arrangement too. Everyone else speaking while I protected the room from what I wanted. I forgive you, I said to Lauren. Her face folded for half a second before she regained control. That doesn't mean I can go back, I continued. Not to how it was. I know. I'll help when I want to. I'll say no when I need to. I'm not going to keep proving I love you by making myself available. I don't want you to. You might sometimes. She considered that. Probably. And I might say yes when I mean no, then resent you. That seems likely. I'm working on it. So am I. I looked at Ellen and Richard. I don't know if I forgive everything yet. Ellen nodded. All right, but I don't want to keep punishing everyone. Were you? Richard asked. Sometimes. Honesty felt less clean than anger. There was no winning position inside it. I liked being needed, I said. I offered before anybody asked. I turned visits into jobs because jobs gave me a place. Then I blamed all of you for believing me when I said it was fine. Lauren wiped one cheek. That doesn't excuse what happened, I added. No, she said, but it's part of it. We stood there beneath years of photographs, all of us visible in different combinations. No single picture held the whole family. Maybe none ever had. Grant cleared his throat. Should we hug? No, 4 of us said. He raised both hands. Great. Just checking. The tension broke enough for Richard to laugh. Downstairs, Grant finished the dishes while Lauren made coffee. Ellen and Richard left first. At the door, Ellen touched my arm. Could we have lunch sometime? She asked. Just lunch? No windows? I'd like that. Richard shook my hand. I may ask about tile. You can ask. I may ignore your answer. You usually do. After they left, Lauren and I returned to the hallway. You really forgive me? She asked. I said I did. You say things when rooms get uncomfortable. So do you. She looked into the empty frame. What happens if we never get the right picture? Then you bought a very nice view of drywall. She laughed. I touched the walnut border. Don't rush it. I won't. We went downstairs. At the front door she hesitated, then held out her arms without moving closer. Can I hug you? The question hurt in a new way. Yes. She put her arms around me. I held her carefully at first, then the way I had before every gesture between us required interpretation. When she stepped back, her face was wet. My birthday's next month, I said. I know. I was thinking about having people over. Her eyes widened. At your house? Maybe the park by the river. I can plan it. The offer came fast. We both heard it. Lauren closed her eyes. Sorry. You can help. With what? I don't know yet. She nodded. Ask me when you do. I walked to the SUV. The walnut box remained beneath the moving blanket, unseen and unnecessary. Before leaving, I looked up at the hallway window. From the street, I could see only the dark outline of the empty frame. For once, nobody hurried to fill it. I gave Lauren the walnut box the following week. She turned it over in her hands at the kitchen table, tracing the dark grain along the lid. "What's it for?" she asked. "Things that fit inside. That clears it up. Photographs, maybe." Her fingers stopped. "Not every picture has to go on a wall," I said. She opened the lid. The brass hinges moved smoothly, and the interior smelled faintly of oil and cedar. "You made this." I had help choosing the hinges. "Luis?" Ruth rejected my first choice with unnecessary force. Lauren closed the lid carefully. "Thank you. It's a gift. You don't owe me an errand. I know how gifts work. We're both reviewing the basics." She smiled and placed the box on the sideboard beneath the stairs. It fit there as if I had measured the space. I had. Ellen and I met for lunch at a diner halfway between our houses. She ordered soup, sent it back because it was cold, and looked at me after the server walked away. "Don't," she said. I didn't say anything. "You had your apology face on." "I have an apology face?" "You look like a man preparing to accept responsibility for weather." When the server returned with hot soup, Ellen thanked him. I kept quiet. We spoke about ordinary things before approaching anything important. Richard's tile had arrived in the wrong shade. Paul's relationship with Joanne had progressed to the stage where he denied it more specifically. Marcy was stripping the old upholstery from her chair and had discovered another layer beneath it, printed with orange flowers. "I'm not asking you to fix anything," Ellen said. "You've mentioned 3 damaged household objects. That's conversation. I'm recalibrating." She stirred her soup. "I've been thinking about what I said at your house," she told me. "About you making yourself useful. All of us have been doing a lot of thinking. It's exhausting." Agreed. "I accepted too much from you after the divorce. I offered too much. I'm trying to apologize. I know." "Then stop helping." I put down my fork. Ellen's mouth twitched. "I like knowing you would come," she said. "Not only because things got fixed. It made the divorce feel less complete. That surprised me. You wanted it to feel incomplete? No. I wanted to know we hadn't destroyed everything. We didn't. But instead of learning how to be something new, we kept parts of the old arrangement. You came when I called. I complained to you. You handled things." Richard pretended not to notice. "He noticed?" "Yes. He's mentioned that." I looked through the window at cars moving along the road. "What are we now?" I asked. 2 people having lunch. That sounds manageable. Maybe we start there." She paid for her own soup. I let her. Planning my birthday picnic became the first family project in years that did not organize itself around what I could carry. Lauren called with a list of questions. "Do you want hamburgers or barbecue?" "Both." "That's not how choices work. It's my birthday." "Fine. Do you want the Riverside shelter or the one near the ball fields?" "Riverside." "How many tables?" "I don't know. Approximately how many people?" I'm not measuring people in tables. "Dad." We invited everyone from the anniversary weekend who lived close enough to come, including Howard and Denise. Lauren asked before adding each name. I invited Ruth and Luis from the woodworking room. Paul brought Joanne, which saved him from several weeks of continued denial. "What do you want me to handle?" Lauren asked. "The shelter reservation and the cake." "That's it?" "That's it." "What about decorations?" "I don't want decorations. You need something on the tables. Food, centerpieces. We're not opening a hotel." She made a frustrated sound, then stopped. "Shelter and cake," she said. "Thank you." Grant borrowed folding tables from his office. Richard offered to bring drinks. Ellen made 2 salads. Paul insisted on grilling because he wanted to use the griddle outdoors, an idea I opposed until he pointed out it was his griddle. The night before the picnic, Lauren called. "The bakery misspelled your name." "How?" "They wrote Donald. That isn't close. They said the order was difficult to read." "You ordered online." "I know." "What does the cake say?" "Happy birthday, Donald." "I like it." "No, it's memorable." "They're fixing it." "You're interfering with my birthday vision." She laughed. "I'll see you tomorrow." "Do you need me to pick anything up?" "No. You sure?" "Yes." "What time should I arrive?" 2. "The picnic starts at 2. "That's correct." I stood in my kitchen holding the phone. "You don't want me early?" "I want you to come when the guests come." "But somebody has to." "We have it." The answer should have pleased me. Instead, I spent Sunday morning walking between the house and garage, inventing reasons to leave early. I could check the shelter, I could bring extra trash bags, I could make sure the river had not moved. At 12:30, I picked up my keys. Then I put them down and called Paul. "Is everything under control?" I asked. "Absolutely not. What happened?" "Nothing." "I'm preserving your expectations. Do you need help?" "No." "I could come." "You could?" "I'll tell Lauren you don't trust her." "Don't do that." "Then stay home until 2, Donald." He hung up. I arrived at 1:58. Cars already lined the park road. The riverside shelter stood beneath tall cottonwoods, its tables covered with blue cloths. Grant and Richard had set up the grill. Ellen and Denise arranged food. Lauren stood near the parking area, directing Tom as he backed toward the shelter with 2 coolers. I got out of the SUV and waited for someone to hand me something. Nobody did. Lauren came over and hugged me. "Happy birthday, thank you. You're on time. I'm early. By 2 minutes. It counts." She carried a canvas tote over one shoulder and held a bakery box with both hands. A paper bag hung from one wrist. "Give me one of those," I said. "I've got it." The words came automatically. We both paused, then she held out the paper bag. "Napkins," she said. "You can carry the napkins. I'm honored. You should be." The cake said, "Daniel." I expressed disappointment. People arrived in loose groups. Howard brought a cushion and positioned it on a bench before anyone could comment on his back. Denise gave me a bottle of bourbon wrapped in a dish towel because she had forgotten a gift bag. Marcy and Glenn brought the reupholstered chair in the back of their car, though no one understood why. "It's for the shelter," Marcy said. "You can't donate furniture to a public park," I told her. "Then sit in it." Ruth inspected the chair joints and declared 2 of them suspicious. Luis arrived carrying a small framed photograph of the cherry table in the reading room. "You said nobody took one," he told me. The picture showed the table between the worn armchairs, sunlight falling across its top. A stack of books sat on one side. No person appeared in the frame. "It looks good," I said. "The floor is still crooked." "I know." I placed the photograph beside my gifts. Paul grilled onions on the electric griddle using an extension cord long enough to cross a state line. Joanne watched him with the patience of someone who had already decided his faults were entertaining. "You didn't tell me she was coming," I said. "I didn't know if she was." Joanne leaned around him. "He asked me 6 times. Paul pointed the spatula at her. "Private conversation?" It was 6 conversations. I liked her immediately. Lauren moved through the picnic without turning it into a military campaign. Twice I saw her begin to clear a table and stop. When the drink cooler ran low, she asked Grant to refill it instead of quietly doing it herself. When Ellen said the salad needed another serving spoon, Lauren told her where the extras were. Nothing collapsed. The canopy stayed up. The food stayed warm. People found chairs. I helped Paul at the grill because I wanted to. When he told me he had it, I ignored him because that was also part of being brothers. After we ate, Lauren carried out the cake. Everyone sang to Daniel rather than Donald. I blew out the candles while Howard complained that the song had been pitched too high. "What did you wish for?" Ellen asked. "If I tell you, it won't come true." "You don't believe that." "I'm protecting the process." She smiled at me over the candles. The light softened as the afternoon went on. People moved from the shelter toward the river. Grant and Richard argued over how to fold a table that had unfolded easily. Ruth gave Marcy an unsolicited lecture on chair glue. Lauren sat beside me for 20 minutes without asking a question or checking her phone. It should not have felt remarkable. It did. Near sunset, she stood. "We should get a picture." Conversation dipped. She heard it and shook her head. Not a production, just a picture. Grant took out his phone. "I can do it." "You need to be in it," Lauren said. "We can use the timer," Richard suggested. "The last time you used a timer, you photographed 9 people looking at the ground," Ellen told him. A woman walking along the river path slowed near the shelter. Lauren approached her and asked if she would mind taking one photograph. "Sure," the woman said. We gathered beneath a cottonwood with the river behind us. There was no perfect arrangement. Howard needed the bench because of his back. Ruth refused to stand behind Luis because she said he blocked the sun. Marcy tried to bring the upholstered chair into the picture until Glenn took it away. I moved toward the end of the group. Habit. Lauren was carrying her canvas tote and a stack of paper plates. She looked at me, looked down at what she held, then set everything on the grass. "Dad," she said. She took my arm and led me toward the center. "You can stand here. Where do you want me? Here. She stood on my right. Paul stood on my left, complaining that Joanne had made him remove his hat. Ellen and Richard settled behind us. Grant leaned in beside Lauren. The woman held up the phone. Can everybody see me? People adjusted. Someone stepped on my shoe. Howard told us to hurry before his spine changed its mind. Everyone ready? The woman called. Lauren did not answer immediately. She looked at me first. I was not carrying the phone. I was not holding a bag, moving a bench, or standing near the car in case somebody needed a ride. I put one arm around my daughter and the other around my brother. Yes, Lauren said. This time, I was already in the frame.